Back to my channel. How is everybody doing? Um, I'm so sorry from that. I've been away for a while, and that's not intentional. Like I mentioned in my previous video, and some of you may have watched the video, of you may have not watched the video, but that's what has been the case. I've been ill, so I took time off to pay attention to my health and to recuperate. I feel very much better now, but I don't look my best, and you can all tell. But I'm glad that I can come up here and have this conversation. Very shortly, I'm going to add my special guest today, and it's going to be very insightful and thought-provoking conversation. I felt so bad that I was away, and a lot of things have been happening. I couldn't lend my voice. I just lay down there, just feeling so bad and all. The situation in here in Africa with the Chinese in Zambia, and then of course the situation with our African American siblings in America. So I couldn't miss the chance, of course, to do this live stream as we always do and to have this conversation. So, very shortly, my special guest is in the back room here, in the waiting room. I'm going to add him up. He is Professor Nware Budge. So, he will come up and then he will introduce himself and we'll start the conversation. So, share this stream. As you can tell, it's going to be a lot. So, share this stream on your social media. Like, if you've not clicked the like button as you come in, click the like button. Of course, share like I've said, and let's have this conversation going. It's going to be very insightful and thought-provoking. So hold on in here, share the stream like I've said. um Professor Nware George has Budge, sorry, is live with us, and I'm going to have him introduce himself now. So Professor Nware, welcome to the Vet Love Show.
Yes, thank you
Let's
so much.
yeah, let's meet you. Introduce yourself before we continue.
Yes, okay. And so my name is Nware Rasan Burge. I am from Newark, New Jersey, in the United States. I am a high school teacher of for special education and history, African American history and Western civilization, U.S. history, all the histories, but also a adjunct professor at Keene University. Teach a course called Films of the African World Experience. And I'm here because I also have created a documentary film entitled DNA, Using Genealogy to Change My Slave Last Name. That film is it won Best Documentary in Accra, Ghana, at the Black Star International Film Festival. So there's a Black Star Film Festival in Philadelphia. Many get confused with the one in Accra, Ghana, the Black Star International Film Festival. So I lived in Brooklyn for about 13, 14 years. I've also lived in Philadelphia, but I am raised in Newark, New Jersey. And so I'd like to say first a shout out and hello to everyone, all of my people that have supported me here in the States. Special shout out to Scribe Video Center, to a close friend, Jennifer Bennett, to where I work, Lee Charter School, Keene University, North Boys Chorus School, Arts High School, Rowan University, all my close friends, Kevin Connor, Daniel Oliver, Neil Aziz, Kyle Brown, all of my closest friends, relatives, the Burge family. I could go on and on. And so I guess will open this up because for the international audience, and I'll give a shout out to everyone in Accra, Ghana, my people in Paris, my people in London, Seychelles Islands, everywhere. I really appreciate everyone helping me on this journey. My mentor is Dr. Kareem and Brother Patterson. But as we'll get started, it's a very tumultuous and hot time here in America. It's been a long time coming. I've actually I'm born in 1970. I'll be 50 years old. So I'm actually born right out of the civil rights and black arts movement in the 1960s. And so I was born in 1970. So I'm actually a child of that. And my first name is Noire. My mother and father didn't want to give me a quote unquote colonial English or European first name. But as you can see, my last name is Burge, right? So, which is what my documentary is about. But we've been going through this since really before we've come to the Americas. During the colonial times in West Africa, during the first stages of colonization, and then being brought here to the Americas. Dealing with chattel slavery. We have to be clear between the differences between sub-Saharan slavery and chattel slavery in America. So having to deal with this type of kidnapping and vicious, malicious savagery at the hands of European colonizers for centuries. And as you're well aware, it's all throughout the Americas. So although I'm African American, we're talking about our brothers in the Caribbean, Haitians, Jamaicans, Dominican Republic, Brazil. Most of the West Africans were brought to Brazil. And some of the, again, there isn't a word in language. Forget the English language, European, Twi, whatever language that can describe what has happened to people of African descent around the world, and specifically during the transatlantic slave trade. There's no word to describe it. The viciousness. We talk vicious, savage, we make up these words, which are, believe it or not, rooted in the European lexicon when we talk about barbaric, savage, Visigoth, Vandals. These words actually come from, Europe. But at any rate, it's been, it's tough to even to describe it. And then after so-called emancipation, then you go through Jim Crow, the Jim Crow period, which was basically so-called freedoms in America. We're supposed to be so-called free after slavery, but then you're still putting draconian laws in place to continue to oppress Black people. And then one thing that many times isn't talked about in history, the media actually spent probably 50, 60 years degrading people of African descent through media. One of the first films ever made, Birth of a Nation, which made the Ku Klux Klan out to be the heroes, and the what if scenario of Blacks being free from after emancipation and us taking over America and pillaging America. This is what this film was pretty much about. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but we come out of Jim Crow. We go into this whole blackface, as I just mentioned, with the media, into the civil rights era. I don't want to miss the Harlem Renaissance because that was a great time for Blacks in America, meaning for arts, not a great time in regards to how we were treated, but in regards to arts and culture, and for the world to see the genius of African Americans, and then going into civil rights, and then into the 80s, the 70s, which was we had economic depression, and then into the 80s, into the crack era, and then welfare to work, which is a whole nother context. And these are things that I'm mentioning for those who maybe don't have historical context and might want to Google some of these things. This might be one-on-one for maybe some people in the audience, but for some people, they may have never heard of some of the things that I'm talking about. And sometimes we have to be cognizant of that. And for those who are in the diaspora, I think one of my main issues is that Caribbeans, we don't really know African-American history. African-Americans don't really know West African history. Africans may not necessarily know the Caribbeans, in that triangle. And so this is where some of the stereotypes and negative negative thoughts that we may have about each other in the diaspora, that we have to uh, read through this. Documentary films are great, but we have to read to learn about our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. So my mother told me a long time ago, she said, Nuwari, those people over there in the Caribbean and Africa, those are your cousins. And my mother and father told me that from, I think, age 5 or 6. You know, I don't know if I think she was watching the news and something came on and it made her angry. And then she turned to me and said, no matter what anybody tells you, Nuwari, and she pointed to me, the people over there in Africa and in the Caribbean, those are your cousins. Don't ever forget that. And my father told me the same, you know, um, so I've had that from, you know, from a child, and many African Americans may not have had that, and even Caribbean Americans have that understanding. So you do have many who may not necessarily see the purpose of identifying with our mother and our mother continent of Africa, specifically West Africa. But I don't want to, you know, limit East Africa and Kemetic legacy, and but the totality of the continent, but more so in understanding our connections to West Africa. So there is a deep, heavy context around what you're seeing in the Americas today. It's really sad, but when they put that knee on that brother's neck, that was the knee on African people around the world. That knee wasn't just a knee on George Floyd. That was a knee on all of Africa and African people. And I don't want to get into the semantics of the etymology, because I know there's a lot of us, especially in America, Blacks, who have a different ideological perspective on Africa, our connections, the word use of Black, and so I understand that. But for lack, use a term for those in the diaspora who may not be cognizant of this rhetoric that we deal with in America, because we have to understand that, again, from Africa, that was a knee on all of our necks. And so I'm hoping now, and what my perspective is on this, because everyone has different perspectives. A lot of conversations happening here. As you see the violence, as we speak, the violence going on. And
Ask you that to just give us maybe updates, because of course we've seen a lot of video clips on social media. For us here on the continent, it's so traumatizing. I know that might
yeah,
sound maybe hypocritical, but that's the fact. In fact, I still haven't watched that video clip in which the officer knelt on George Floyd's neck, because I'm so afraid that the images I see are going to haunt me. So
yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah.
intentionally not watched the clips, but from
Mm.
everything I've heard and just the still pictures I've seen, it's so traumatizing. And
Yeah,
the whole story and the whole incident is something that has got a lot of us so scared and worried, because it's not, like you've said, it's not just about George Floyd. It's about all of us who bear this identity.
exactly.
It doesn't matter where we are. It only shows that if we find ourselves in America, for instance, then we are all at risk, because there's no distinction. Nobody knows that I'm a Nigerian, of course, until maybe I identify myself or I speak. And the
Mm.
same applies for other Nigerians and other Africans on the continent. So it's a conversation that we need to have. And I love the fact that our Africans in America have risen and decided it's enough. The government needs to take actions to address this, because it's been a long time coming. We've had enough. So just sort of like give us some updates, so to say, about the situation, what's going on, and we take
Okay.
the.
So the first day, I believe, when everything happened, I mean, everyone, it was almost like it's been happening so much, especially within social media. We've sort of become numb to it, which is another that could be mental health. We can actually,
Yeah.
how things affect you with the mental health. We
Mm-hmm.
can actually make an argument to that. You have, so once it initially happened, many people, and I think you would have to interview many different people in the Americas and in African Americans to see what their reactions was, because we had gotten so used to it. But the reaction of the people in Minnesota then sparked the rage. Really, the rage was already there, but it really was it lit the match for the rest of America to really Black Americans and Blacks in the diaspora to really take a look at this. I mean, many people have different theories about this. Our concern shouldn't be with white people and how they, it really shouldn't. We need to kind of look into ourselves and now decide how we're going to move. But once that second day happened, we saw a few protests in Minnesota happening, and then all I know is I think that evening, I was thinking to myself as I'm watching some of the speeches. I was like, man, sure was a lot of people out there that night before. I'm wondering what's going to happen tonight, but I wasn't sure. And in the middle of the night, I saw them set fire to the precinct. And this is something that, after, because this isn't just, and rest in peace to George Floyd and his family and everyone, because this had been built up this month with Ahmaud Arbery and the sister that was shot and killed in her bed. Also, but this has been years of this. You know what I mean? This has been years and years. Trayvon Martin, Philando Castillo. And this was also in Minnesota. But this oppression, this global oppression, we understand it for people of color, specifically people of African descent, and now specifically African fundamental African Americans. And so once we get into, I think that fourth day, I mean, in Minnesota, they, kind of went ballistic, and it was, well deserved. You know what I mean? Like, many of us have a lot of different understandings of what we felt should have happened at that moment, but I'm not going to get into that. But then once I think, get around to about the fourth or fifth day, you started to now see everyone around America begin to react. Now, we have to also keep in mind that you have these people, mostly white, that are just anarchists who are just against the government and against the system, and they just want to jump in and then destroy things and all that. And then you have also rumors of, and I don't even think it's a rumor, of racist white supremacists who are trying to add fuel to the fire when we're just trying to protest. So you have some of these things that are happening that isn't necessarily African Americans per se, but it's white Americans who, because you have some that are concerned, right? But there are many who are just trying to make this worse than it is, to put even more of a stain on Black people here. So now you have all of these interwoven intricacies in regards to what's happening. And it's just a weird dichotomy, man. I mean, to be in this situation. But regardless of all that, it's our time to now, as we see in Philadelphia, Las Vegas, Nevada, Los Angeles, California, Houston, even here where I am in Newark, Brooklyn. I consider myself also a fellow Brooklynite, but Brooklyn, Philadelphia, I think I mentioned that, Jacksonville, Miami, all over America. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so I can kind of, if you have any, some other questions, I was going to turn this into begin to discuss the documentary and certain things of a couple of points that I would like to make in regards to even why I did this documentary, and to shed light for a lot of people who are familiar with my story, but also not really understanding and knowing the true backstory in regards to the film. So before I got into that, is there anything that you wanted to ask me, or in regards to other questions? Or? Um,
Yes. So we're having this conversation. I see
mm,
there's usually this mixed reactions because I can see from the comments and the chats that people are dropping in the chat room that some people are
mm.
not really given to the idea of coming back to Africa because, of course, our conversation is centered around the fact that given the events going on in America, is it time for African Americans to return back home? Some people are of the opinion that yes, it's time to come back. Some people are of the opinion that it's not different. Africa has their own issues, just the way America has their own issues. So what's your take on these mixed reactions?
Well, and this is where I want to transition into the documentary, why I did it.
Okay.
Um, Now, with the documentary, it's the subject matter of, again, it's a colonialism imperialism thing. All of our last names here in the Americas, whether we're aware of it or not, are European. And it's to my understanding and my um, feeling that why should we continue to carry the slave master's name, right? This isn't a situation where there was this acculturation and then we just all got along here. And I think it would be something we wouldn't even think about if we had autonomy to live freely and move freely and do business. And it would probably be something that we really wouldn't think about and consider in regards to if racism, white supremacy, quote unquote, didn't exist and we lived in a kumbaya kind of scenario here in America and everything was okay. But it's not. And so it's for me, it was always like with all the just sick and demented and tragic things that have happened to us here. Why are And I would think about this years ago when started becoming politically conscious and aware of things. Why are we even speaking English? Why are we even, and this was one of the ideas I think of the brother that created Kwanzaa. Many people said we should begin to learn Kiswahili and begin to embrace our culture. And so part of all of that in regards to that, being westernized and Europeanized and whitewashed, is the name. Like we can do all of these things and we're recapturing our culture, but we carry the slave master's name, the surname. And so I created this film because as much as I hope and wish that people of African descent would begin to study and research and embrace their culture and to rid ourselves of this sort of white supremacist ideology that we have ingested, that we have. And so there's a lot of ways that you can get to this. And so when I did the film, it was like, okay, it wasn't just about the name, but as you see, I have, matrilineal, when I got my results back from, and I'll go into the film, Dr. Gina Page of AfricanAncestry.com on my mother's side came back down. I am 100% Igbo. And then there's a lot of discussion around the genetics and how we can get even more clarity about our specific ancestry. You have people who don't believe in it. You have people who have questions about it, but it's not just that. It's why not connect to your heritage and culture, and now also look into dual citizenship possibly, right? Business, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, because the idea of we here, this is our land, we created it, we made it, we ain't going nowhere, we're gonna stay here and fight. And you're damn right, that's what we're gonna do. That's what people are gonna do. I think for me, it's more or less within the mind of white supremacy. And bringing up this film, you have adults and teachers, professors, and people who, when they see the name, the title of my documentary, and then I give them the premise, they're like, wow, highly intelligent brothers and sisters that it never even crossed their mind really about the last name being white, being European, being English, and believing that we're black, but we're carrying someone's name. So it's like if I introduce myself and I said, hi, Grace, my name is Yao Ming. And you would say, Yao Ming. And I was like, yeah, that's my name. And the first thing that might come to mind is, well, isn't that a Chinese name? But you might not even ask that question, but it doesn't really matter. Or if I say my name is Rajiv Patel, and you might think, hey, that's like an Indian, Hindu name. Why does this black man? But if I say my name is John Robinson, which is clearly English, you wouldn't question anything about me. This is the point of the brainwashing that we have in regards to just our names. So I'm not even talking about the fact that we speak in a language, our systems of everything, of eating and diet and culture and marriage and relationship and everything is more European than it is of African descent. Now we have so many ethnic groups, and so Africa is a continent with hundreds of languages, ethnic groups, and things like that. But the reason for the documentary is to build that bridge because you have a lot of people who are from here who have other places to go to in case something happens, right? In case there's let's say there's tyranny that we can't return from. There are many people here that are from the Caribbean, that are from West Africa, that are from other places around the world. They have dual citizenship or they have a second home. So for me, it's just also not leaving and getting rid of the Americas, but also having a place of home. And if you want to permanently leave America, I don't disagree with that at all. It's just for me, it's just a part of reconnecting to the heritage and the culture. And so this film, again, it's not out for sale, and I have to do a real serious or a minor edit to be able to put it out to the public. But just the subject matter has resonated. I did a presentation. I was invited to Oxford University to do a presentation and lecture around the film. The University has Helsinki in Finland. I've also screened in France at the Pan-African Festival in France. I can't remember the title of it, as well as in London, England. It was nominated, or I won Best Documentary at the Black Star International Film Festival in Accra, Ghana. It was nominated for Best Documentary at the San Diego Film Festival, at the New York International Film Festival. And then I've also spoken at various conferences, the American Name Society, and a shout out to the National Council for Black Studies. So people have been wanting to hear this narrative or have this discourse around not just these so many of these understandings of what it is to be a person of African descent, but moving forward, what are some of the solutions to ridding ourselves of this white supremacy that we have in us? And first, we have to acknowledge that too. So these are some of the things that I think in regards to moving forward. If we trust the DNA, if we agree with it, it can be a bridge to try to maybe reach out to the consulate there and dual citizenship to wherever your ethnicity is, and then begin to build a bridge to go back and forth. Because this is something that we should have been doing a long time ago. We're not even aware that there's actual legislature that was put in place to make sure that Africans and continental Africans and African Americans don't have a real connection, right? There's a history of this. So we have some may agree with what I'm saying, and some may totally disagree. You have people who believe, oh, Africans don't want to deal with us, and Caribbean people, and all these different things. But if I feel like that Pan-Africanism, that global Pan-Africanism, is well needed, because it doesn't matter what we claim in regards to nationalism. We are of African descent, and that is why we are oppressed, and we have to understand that. And so the economic bridge, the social bridge, we need to begin to do that. And so I will also speak on who really
So
quickly?
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
ask you, we've been talking about name and identity, something
Mm,
I totally agree with.
mm,
But ironically, even Africans on the continent, continental Africans, you find us bearing, European sort of names. Someone wants to have, and I'm guilty because my name on social media, of course, is Virtue Grace, but then
mm.
I have my official names are not Virtue Grace. But
Yeah, yeah.
you see, there's this sort of need for us to bear names that we feel are more acceptable and more,
Mm,
prestigious. So you
mm,
find even continental Africans bearing, European type of names and all. But here you are advocating for people who have European names, to change to African names. So how do you think this change of name is going to impact on let me get that right. How do you think it will impact on Africans or on people of African descent in America, especially because, of course, the premise of your documentary is for people of African descent in America to change their names. So, how do you think that's going to impact?
mm. Well, we have a lot of problems in America. So you have, and I mentioned this in the film, that we have so many issues, and the name. Some people might feel it's not significant, but it's a part of ridding yourself in regards to imperialism, colonialism, white supremacy. It's part of the narrative, and so it's empowerment, it's self empowerment, it's pride, it's culture, it's relevance to who you are. It has meaning, right? There's a whole process in how you get that. So you can't just name yourself. So I didn't really go into the film and why, right? Why I did it, and there's a whole story around it, and I want to get into that. So specifically around the name, I play sports, right? I play basketball. A lot of people know. Some people know that. Some people don't. And I was pretty good. Pretty decent, right? But I've always followed sports. And when I was in, I think, seventh or eighth grade or ninth, I can't remember. I was watching a sports channel, and they were doing an interview of these twins named Heather and Heidi Burge. They were white girls, and their name was Heather Burge and Heidi Burge, and they were doing a story on how good they were and how good they're going to be. And so I called my mother into the living room and said, Mom, come here. These white girls, they got my last name. They got my last name. And then my mother looked at me, looked back at the TV, looked back at me, and said, No, Naware, uh, they don't have your name. You have their name. They could be your slave masters, ancestors that owned your family or something like that. And so that's really the premise of, there's a lot of other premises, right? But that's really the premise around the film. When my mother said that, and I was young and I sort of understood, but now that, studying, African history, African culture, African American history and culture, and Caribbean culture, and these things, it really began to resonate. And then, as far as a film, I'm not a filmmaker by trade. Again, I have a master's in education, a bachelor's, liberal arts, political science. And when I speak on this, and for anybody who's tuning in, churches, institutions, universities, hopefully after COVID and after what we're dealing with, people who would like to maybe do a one-to-one online for me to speak on this, and have me come in and speak, I'm welcome to that, and I'll give all my information. But it's I think it's time that we do this because in the creation of the film, when I thought about it, I'm not a filmmaker by trade, educator, but a friend of mine, Jennifer Bennett, I spoke to her about possibly doing a documentary, and she told me about Scribe Media, Film Media Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so it's like a 12-week program. So I don't have this whole background on film. And so I took this class. You just learn how to use the camera. You learn how to use uh, Premiere Pro system, and it's just basic general. And so yeah, everyone works on each other's film, and at the very end, you're supposed to have like a 10-minute to 15-minute film. And so once I talked about the premise of my film, and I began to do the interviews and began to edit it was getting longer and longer and longer. It got to about 40 minutes. My teacher at the time, I don't know why his name is escaping me. This is sad. But the teacher at the time, he was like, listen, it's okay. And we'll put the film last since it's the longest. And so at the end of the film, the Scribe Media Center, they have what's called, a film screening. And so everyone comes out and we show the film, and they set it up nice. It was beautiful. And everyone's film was excellent. It was great. And a couple of people came to me and was saying, hey, this is something like that you might see as a documentary on one of the stations that we have here called PBS. And I said, oh, for real? It's like, yeah. And I was like, wow. And so someone said, hey, maybe you should enter it. And it was just really a story for me to talk about, not just African, because I talk about, African spiritual systems a little bit in the film in regards to Ifa, Yoruba, and the Khan, and these different things of where we come from in West Africa. For those who understand that. As you might see, I have the Lekes here. So, which is a whole nother discussion, right? But it's also about reconnecting to who and what our culture is from West Africa, for those who understand and agree. And so, as the people that I decided to interview, Dr. Gina Page of AfricanAncestry.com, Dr. James Braxton Peterson, he's from Newark, New Jersey, a friend of mine, grew up together, former Professor Lehigh, Senator Kevin Parker, who has a very clear understanding of Ifa traditional systems and how Yoruba and these systems connect to African Americans and how we still have remnants of the culture, right? Also, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, right, who's been one of the pillars in African studies and research, and an elder and mentor. The Brown family of the Egbe Ijoba in Philadelphia. And so you have these different people, and it's kind of like bringing them all together to do this film and to give us an understanding of the power of not just, so it's not just only the name, and connecting and having that resonate for us. Because again, when I in the film, I talk about there are people who are so with for example, with the Christianity system, it being brought to us by the white imperialists, and some people have moved into what was believed to be more African-centered spiritual systems. And all of these systems, when you become initiated in them, you take a name. And so, and I agree with that also. But here in America, we have first names that might be Quaniqua, Quanasia, that sound Arabic or African, but don't necessarily have a meaning to them. But we then carry the last name of the European. So it's kind of like, why should we continue to do that and just give ourselves a name that we connect with, that resonates from the continent, that has a whole meaning? Because there's a whole process. You don't just name yourself. There's a whole process around this, right? If you're born on you have names like Kofi and Kwabena, born on a Friday or born on a Wednesday or born on, a certain day. These names have historical significance and meaning. And so you carry that. And so this is one of the reasons why it's important. But when we're going into, I guess, sort of why I did it, it was more or less to kind of teach people to understand that it's sort of like a slave badge, and some people don't look at it like that. They sort of see it as the disrespect of our elders, and we have to be careful with that. And I understand what people are saying, but that name represents the slave masters, whether we agree with it or not. And so, because that wouldn't be our names, we might have, again, Arabic, Ashanti, Akan, Ewe, Twi, Ga. We would have, Congolese. We would have these different Bamaleke. We have all kind of different names that we would have had we been able to name ourselves. And so this is very, very, very important in understanding this. And so again, this has resonated with people around the world. And so, and again, giving a shout out to all of those who've supported me. And I believe it's something that it should be part of the discourse and narrative, because we have to focus on, of course, economics and just having a home and family, and those things are very important. But I feel like this is also part of it, not just only the sole thing that we just need to do. And I think it's another way to respect, love, and connect to our ancestors and to the continent, um, and to our people. And so, yeah, there are problems in Africa, there are problems here. But I think now, as you can clearly see, we should be coming together to help solve these problems and help our problems and help ourselves, like Marcus Garvey said, and and our elders, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. John Henrik Clark, Dr. Ben Yakinen, currently, Dr. Malefi Asante, these are the people who have educated us. Arturo Schomburg, who was one of Dr. John Henrik Clark's mentors, the Schomburg Center for Research in Harlem. We have to begin to study and research and get information and be able to understand that, because if we don't have that information, then how can we even know to even connect and build a bridge? So again, I think the more important thing is for those who say, hey, we just need to leave, for those who say we need to fight, I think we could do both. I think we could build a bridge, like many other people already have, who are in the diaspora. So I think there's some other points I wanted to make. Ironically, my daughter's name is Oninyeche, which is a Igbo name. So, and so she was named that before I even knew or understood that I had any DNA genetic connections to specifically Igbo, right? So it could be a spiritual thing. Who knows? And so I'm also going to do the patrilineal side, meaning my father's side of my DNA, and then find out also. But again, this is just part of the narrative, part of the discourse and things that we need to look into in regards to who we are. So yeah, so that's and I could probably go on and on, but um, uh, the question. What other questions? Did you have any other questions in regards to um, the topic, the history, the subject matter?
Yes, my question would be around the coming back to Africa, because of course we've had quite an elaborate discussion around name, identity and all of that. We all are on the same page, and I can see in the comments as well that a lot of people are of the opinion that taking changing their names is something that needs to be done, and I encourage that as well. Like I said, I have my traditional names. I have my names that were given to me by my parents. Virtue grace is just something I came up with for the sake of social media and all. So it gives you a sense of identity. I know that sense of
Pride.
connection, that sense of pride. There are
Hmm.
the Yorubas, for instance, the Yorubas in Nigeria, they take so much pride in bearing their names. You can come across a Yoruba person who has up to 5 names, and those names are all Yoruba names.
Hmm.
There's no
Hmm.
English name in it. You ask them and they introduce themselves. It's a long stretch of Yoruba names, and that's something we should encourage. And it goes beyond just even names, because it has to do with our having a sense of pride in who we are as Africans, regardless of where we are. You know, Yoruba people are, to me, a model, because in addition to bearing Yoruba names, they make sure that they speak their language, they make sure that they keep their culture so much, such that even for those who are educated, so to say, who are exposed the way we describe it here in Nigeria, for people who are, educated, maybe the middle class, exposed and all, they
Mm,
still maintain their cultural identity and practices. And that's one thing that we should encourage, even for the Africans in the diaspora, Americans of African descent should
mm.
consider bearing names that give them a sense of identity, and cultural connection to Africa. And then we've been talking about taking steps to come back, given the events that have been happening over time, and which we've seen culminating in the recent, reactions from the African community. So it's time to take actions to come back home. But then, how would that process look like? From
Well,
your perspective, what would
again,
that process back look like?
and again, my perspective on that again is um, for the diaspora. If you trust the DNA, because there are a lot of concerns about what the government is doing with the DNA, and it's my opinion that if you've been to a hospital, it's too late. So that they already have that. That's my personal opinion. But if you trust, let's say African ancestry, or you trust other forms, let's say autosomal DNA, because there's different, ways that you do it, with mitochondrial, autosomal, and really gaining that, right? And really using that to get more specificity to direct lineage, with direct lineage to your culture. First of all, you have to know that that's important, all right? And I guess I'm going to speak to the choir now for those who know that's important. But I think for those in the Caribbean and those in the Americas who understand that, you again, I guess I'm sound like a broken record here, using the DNA to find out, because there's also the understanding that we're all, regardless we're from the continent, we'll need to know all that, because that feeds into the ethnic divisions, the Ghana versus Nigeria, Yoruba versus Igbo, Blood versus Crip, LA versus New York, right? Jamaica versus Haiti. Like some people believe that that's not, we're just under this umbrella and just go with that because we're suffering from that. And which I agree with also. I spoke to Dr. Cambone in Ghana, and we had a nice talk, and he gave me a lot of clarity on this. I didn't agree at first, right? And then about a couple of months later, I was like, wow, Dr. Cambone was right in exactly what he was saying in regards to the like Bob Marley's song "Tribal War," right? And ethnic divisions. This figurative and literal knee on the neck needs to be the message for those of us in the diaspora. It's as simple as that. And so I think that the name is important because, again, it gives us this type of pride. You have Black people here who would say, I'm not giving my daughter or son an African name. I'm not going to be able to get a job, or that's going to hinder their future. And this is part of what it is. There's been studies, I believe, by, I don't know, it's Harvard, Stanford, or Yale. You hand in a resume with what looks like to be a quote unquote Black name, and they move it to the side, and they've proven that this has happened. But I always pose the question to the success to continental Africans here who have names like Olufemi or whatever the names are, and they have success here in the Americas. So some people may argue that, oh, there's a bias, and if they're continental Africans, white people are going to treat it different, and there could be some truth there. But they clearly see an African name on that resume before they're called into the interview. So I look at the successes of continental Africans who have those names, and they don't just walk into a job. They got to send a resume. There's a process to this. And so I'm sometimes sure that some do have these English names. Sometimes it'll be the English names and the European last name. And then sometimes there's a full, whatever their ethnic group is, name, and they're having certain successes with that name. So why is it that we can't do that? So we have to feel that it's relevant. And if we don't feel it's relevant, then that's a whole nother topic and discussion. I think the root for me is ridding all things European, which is hard. That's difficult. You have to be in Africa, living and learning, and we understand and we see from over here the colonization and imperialism on the mindset of many people that come from Africa to here. Or when we go visit, we see a lot of things that's clearly not indigenous, right, to what's going on there. But I think there can be a balance. I think we could look hard and heavy into it. Um, these positive parts of the culture of, because of many different ethnic cultures in Africa, but let's take the positives of it and utilize that, and begin to, I'm talking about globally, from spirituality to marriage systems to family structures, social structures, that interconnectedness. I posted a video with one sister who was just in Tanzania. She's from South Carolina, and she's pleading like, "Yo, there's struggles here. It's not going to be easy. There's no kumbaya when you come to Africa, to Tanzania, where she is, or to wherever the country is. It's going to be struggles." But to have that feeling of that connection of how you're going to be treated, she was saying is priceless. And I hear this story from many people. Even when I was there, I was treated great. So most Black people here have the mindset of they don't like us over there and they don't want us over there. You have some continental Africans that I spoke to, people from Africa, that say, hey, when West Africans go to the Americas or to Europe, that's when they have these kind of imperialist attitudes towards other people of African descent. You don't always get that in Africa. And when they told me that, I was like, I don't know, but I understand what they were saying. But this foot on the neck, or this knee on the neck, needs to be the punch or the smack in the face, the kick in the back to all of us. It needs to be a clear smack in the face to all of us of African ethnicity, to understand clearly what this is in the world, and how there's nobody that really have our backs. I think African Americans sometimes feel that even Caribbeans and Africans from Africa don't have our backs, right? There's some that believe in that, and I understand why they're saying it, where they're coming from with it. I'm clear on all that. But when are we going to move forward in understanding that this neck from the oppressor is on all of us? And if we don't get a clear understanding and begin to connect with each other, this will continue to happen. Us fighting the fight here, and Africans being to look over here and be able to, like, look, we're going to do what we can. Nana Addo, I know I said that wrong, of Ghana, said, hey, man, and big shout out to Diallo Sumbri of the Sankofa or Kwabano, I can't think of his organization. I'm so sorry, Diallo. But speaking with the people in West Africa, in Ghana specifically, and encouraging the rites of passage, and not rites of passage, but the connection to come back to Africa to get citizenship and take advantage of the resources, and the Africa return, the 1619 year of return. So I'm so happy about that. And there are other countries too. So again, I think dual citizenship, the bridge, the back and forth, intermarriage. I don't know, if that's, something in the mindset of people of African descent with continental Africans, because we do it here, married to Caribbean, people of Caribbean descent, African Americans and stuff. And so, but we have to see the value in each other. We have to see and understand each other's culture and appreciate it. There's the statement of people, appreciate Black but don't want to be Black. People want to, appreciate African Americans but don't want to be African Americans. So, but understanding, the history and the culture and quote unquote what we put down in America, that all the world has always had their eye on us. As this, beacon of light and fighting oppression. When we're talking about, W.E.B. Du Bois, Fannie Lou Hamer, you name it, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey's from Jamaica, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, talk about writers, George G.M. James, Walter Rodney from the Caribbean. I mean, we could go on and on with, you know, um, these people who have, Marimba Ani, who wrote the book Yorugu. And again, I got to give a shout out to Dr. Conyers and Dr. Bay, and both Dr. Conyers is, who I look to for guidance. But and the understanding of all of these people who are educators and teachers, and the black women who've held us down for centuries, and the scholars, the black women scholars. We have to understand that we have to take all of this rhetoric and information that we've talked about for years, and now apply it. So and so it's great to see, as I'm trying to look at, for those who are online right now. I'm looking at two different. I'm looking at the YouTube and the live stream, and it's a bit of a delay. So I appreciate all of your posts. I see the tribalism, which is it. Right? I call it, but I like to use ethnocentrism. That's why I like to use versus tribalism, right? But the ethnocentrism that you see is part of the problem. But again, I'm looking at, appreciating all of the of everyone who is chiming in. I see we got almost 200 people, which is beautiful. Peace, Brett. I see you out there, Brett. Lisa, Tashiyam, Morris Samuel. I see you. I'm just being able, Kareem Mohammed. I'm just being able to go back because now I'm looking at the YouTube feed. So New Orleans Dog, Susan Jackson, everyone out there. I see Bang Bang. I wish I could read all of your comments, but for those who have been on these online interviews, it's kind of tough to get through all of this thing and kind of discuss, because this is like, for those who aren't aware of Dr. John Henrik Clarke, and he says in A Great and Mighty Walk, we cannot talk about this enough. So for that word hoteper, right? I believe the word hoteper is a millennium word. Millennials use this word because other millennials put pressure on them for not knowing their history and culture. And so it's a dismissive term. And to me, it disrespects the ancestors who have fought so hard. This term hoteper or some nonsense that these millennials use, right? For people who understand history and culture and the importance of that. So we have to understand that once we know that, we have to now apply it. How do we apply it? And that's been the most difficult thing. I've been through serious personal situations applying my ideological perspective to my life, right? And I'm not moving off of that ever. So, in understanding how we should move to help ourselves as a family and as a culture, and moving on in the future, right? But I stand on certain principles that I'll never move off of. And so I think these are the solutions, right? African-centered schools. What's the problem? What's the problem? The solution is African-centered schools. Solution is, family and marriage. The solutions are learning history and culture, right? We can have our debates and arguments, but it should be to build and add on, as a nation of gods and earths would say, right? So I'm currently have some other films that I've written out that I hope to be able to put out, and I'm hoping to get support. One of the films, I'm thinking this is one of the titles, Our God is Black. Are we running from white Jesus? Which is going to be, I don't know if that's going to be the title, but it's going to refer to all of the different Black religious perspectives of and us following this white deity in the world, and should we continue to do that, and why is that even happening, right? So many people around in the African diaspora aren't aware of the Hebrew Israelites, the native, the Nation of Islam. There are people who aren't privy to this. The Nation of Gods and Earths, 5% Nation, the Moorish doctrine, Dr. Malachi York, and the Nuwapians, and I could go on and on. The Asar Set and Kemetic communities. And so it will be I already started interview. I interviewed Baba Heru. I've also interviewed a couple of people so far in regards to now talking about, because, and I know I'm off the topic of the names, but bringing it back full circle, these people have put in the work for about 40, 50 years in regards to the interconnection to our understanding to Africa and East Africa, Nile Valley civilization. So not just names, but culture. And so understanding the deities, right? Not just the deities being of African descent, what that looks like, right? The center of the film, I want it to be, there's an old show that people in the diaspora may not be aware of called Good Times, where Michael brings JJ's picture of a black Jesus and puts it on the wall, and the mother rejects it. And I would like the film to be centered around that. And that's going to take some kind of work and connections. And those who have any connections, please connect me to people who can help me make this happen. But I want that to be the center of our God is Black, and then being able to talk about the deity being, because if you're a spiritual person, if it's a picture of a white man, then you got a lot of problems from there, right? And we have to understand that that's fundamental. And we see this going on all over the world, and we're not having that conversation, right? So we got to have that conversation, and then and I hope to be able to do that, and then be able to show the world what African Americans and around the world. I think there's a church in England, the Cubatic, I can't think of the name, where they talk about a black deity, right? So this is important, understanding Rastafarian culture and Haile Selassie, and them looking at him as a deity, and why though, right? So I would love to interview Muta Baruka and be able to have these discussions, just the importance of Black culture, but the importance of a deity being of Africa or Black deity, right? And understanding that. So when we talk about Yoruba and we talk about Oshun and Ogun and Yem and Yah and these things, we need to know, because I'm just learning. I'm new. I don't claim to know that, right? But I know some powerful brothers and sisters who are very well versed in that, right? And so we have to know what this is. We've been told that this is the devil. We've been told that this is witchcraft. We've been told that this is devil worship. And so the film 1804 by Tariq Nasheed is a must watch. Birth of a Nation, right? Both Birth of the Nations. There are two Birth of the Nations. The first one, and then the second one that was done by a great brother and a great crew of people. But all the hidden colors, there's this film's called Hidden Colors for those in the diaspora who aren't aware, right? But 1804, when they used the Ogun spirit to fight back, right? And understanding there is no forgiveness here if we're going to get ourselves out of this oppression. And it's no disrespect to offend any spiritual systems or religions and stuff, but there are certain things, fundamental things that we have to get back to if we're going to get the knee out of our neck. And I think that's one of the most important things. And so we have to understand that we might have to begin to rid ourselves from, the language, the name, the religions, the dress, these to me are the beginnings of the solutions. But we have to see the problem first. And if we're not reading and understanding that, then everything that I'm saying, again, is the devil. For anybody who understands, there's a book called The Salem Witch, Tituba, right? Who is a practitioner of African spiritual system. I read that book when I was young. When I read it when I was old, I was like, oh man. So this whole witch thing is something serious. And because maybe our brothers and sisters on a continent might have used it against each other, and so we say, oh, we got to get rid of that, and it's the devil, and it's whatever. When they used it in Haiti, they was able to defeat their oppressors, the French. So these are questions that we need to ask, right? We can't have somebody demonize and call us the devil and say that we are witches and call our history and culture witchcraft and totally embrace it and think that that's true, because we believe it's true. We think this is witches, Buddhist, voodoo, and all that. We think that's what we believe. I don't personally, but you talk to many people, that's what that is. Warlocks and all these things that we talk about that come from white Europeans to now minimalize our spiritual power. That's dangerous, and we do it to ourselves. So it's time to begin to think. It's time to move. We gotta get this knee off of our bleeping necks. And these, in my personal opinion, is all of the process to begin to do this. Right? If you want to stay in the religion culture, look into what the deity is. Right? Begin to push that. I always felt that, hey, this film that I want to do, how come Tyler Perry, T.D. Jakes, and Oprah Winfrey, with the money and resources, haven't done a real Christian movie of a black deity or black Jesus? They got the money and resources to do it, but that would turn everything upside down. Do you have the heart to do that? Do you first think that that even exists, first and foremost, right? In whatever your belief system is. So these are the oppressive white supremacist type of ideological perspectives and oppressive mindset that we have with this mental enslavement. And I could go on and on and on. And I'm speaking to the choir with some people, right? But we have to know that that has happened. And we don't first identify, like when a person is quote unquote Alcoholics Anonymous and, hi, my name is John. Hi, John. You got to say, hi, my name is Olufemi, Olufemi, and whatever. And now you begin to start the process of unwashing yourself, and that might take years. You might lose a couple of friends, you know what I mean, but and lose some people if you're standing quote unquote standing your ground. So these are all the elements that we're scared to talk about when we look at Nile Valley civilization and the Nubians and the Egyptians and start to look at that as some kind of demonic order because of somebody else's way of thinking, and now minimalize our most powerful accomplishments or some of the most powerful accomplishments in society. I mean, so it's so much that I could go on and on, about in regards to us starting to know ourselves, know our history, know our culture. And it's not just a name thing, right? It's about more than that. So we got to get this knee off our neck. You know what I mean? We got to, and I think that's what this is about. For all those who disagree with connecting to Africa, so there's something we got to start having conversations. I think West Africans who are who understand this information have to have these discussions. Fela Kuti, Miriam Makeba, Kwame Nkrumah came to, African Americans. They came to America and got a lot of information and came back and made them a lot of who they are. You know what I'm saying? So we've gotten our foundational information from West Africa and genetically and information of who and what we are from there. And they've come over here and we've exchanged that that intellectual discourse to be able to understand the Pan-Africanist movement that needs to be, that could be the problem or the answer to this problem that we have. It could be Pan-Africanism. So I'm trying to look at some of the 5% Nation, True Wisdom for Africans. As I'm trying to read some of this. And again, I'm just coming here. African nations are visa-free for African citizens. Great, but one-way street at the end becomes an issue in life when one gives and the other one never does. Yep. I want to join your next live. I'm here in the US. I have something important to say. So I'm just reading some of the things that are being said.
If you're sorry, worry to interrupt. If you're coming by the stream, if you have just tuned in, or I will do that. Kindly click the subscribe button if you've not subscribed, because I get a sense that some of you are coming by this channel for the first time today. So click the subscribe button and the bell beside it. When you do that, each time I upload new videos or I go live, you get notified and you can catch up with my latest uploads. And then if you've not given this live stream a thumbs up, please go ahead, by all means, give this a thumbs up, and then of course share this. Let's have more people coming. If you want to come up on the show, if you have any contributions you want to make as well, indicate in the comment section. I will share the link with you so you can come up and then of course have your own take in the conversation as well. As you have seen and you've been hearing, I and Prof Nwari have been having a conversation around, bearing a name that gives you an African identity, doing away with the colonial identity that comes with the names that a lot of us are still bearing, even after the colonial and slave experience. So we all agree that it's important to bear African names that gives African identity and that sense of connection back to the motherland. And then we've been talking about the need for us to return back, getting the knee off our necks and then coming back home to Africa. And I can see in the comment section in the chat room, a lot of you have different opinions about the whole topic of coming back to Africa. A lot of people of the opinion that Africa is not perfect. Africa also have their own issues. So why would they want to come back to Africa? And I want you to comment on that, Prof, because it's important. That's the title of this conversation, the need to come back, that given the incidents and and the events that are happening, it's time to come back. You've been to the continent, like you've mentioned, and also what would you think it is like for African Americans to at least come visit first before maybe considering coming back, to settle here? Because there's a lot of mixed reactions. Some people think that continental Africans are not welcoming towards, Africans in America, in the Caribbean, and all. But you've been here, so what was your experience like, and what would the process of coming back be like for you? What would you recommend, or just to give like an insight to what it would be like, what actions people need to take to come back?
Before I get into that, I want to first say, give you a big shout out. Your YouTube channel is great. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. I love watching the information that you share, and your platform. And that should have been the first thing I said before anything started. So that's my apologies. All right.
Thank you. It's fine.
So and giving a shout out to again everybody who's been supportive of me, everybody on the live, and who are and understanding of what it is that we need to do. Going back to the continent is going to require a lot of things. For those in the Americas, you have to understand it's a different life. Some people said, hey, you should go to Jamaica first, see what's like in Jamaica, because it's very similar to Ghana. And I found that kind of to be true. It's not exactly the same, no, but it's similar. You need to know that things are different, right? They're going to be, not even just in the languages and the customs, but how you're living, how you're traveling around. You have to know that it's a little different. The people love and respect you. There was a time in the South for African Americans in the South where there's this, you still sort of have this, right? When you go to the America and in the South and around Black people, people wave and say hi, and they have still concern from your well-being, right? And I always say there's still some African communalness in those parts of the South, right? But that's what you'll feel. You'll feel that family, that connection, that understanding. I understand that if you bring people who are familiar with Liberia, the story around Liberia and the Americos and the African Americans that went there and brought an imperialist mindset, which led all the way up to one of the worst civil wars on the continent, right? You have to rid your white self, if that makes any sense, right? It's tough because when you speak the language, that's one of the first things that makes you more European than you are African, whether you believe it or not. It changes your whole cognition of how you even see life and reality. So we can't just learn a language like that. That's a whole nother topic. But you have to try to rid that white man in you. You got to be able to try to move in a certain way, try to move be respectful and be humble when you're there. Speak to people a certain way. If you go there bringing that stuff, that it's going to be typical of what people are going to expect of of a Donald Trump mentality, right? So if we bring that Donald Trump mentality, I mean that's so you have to be understanding of where you are and also know how to talk to people. I hope to learn, talk to people. I hope to, begin to, I know people who are learning languages and ethnic languages there that are on the continent, and then here they're learning it. So, learning the customs and the people. But the people were beautiful. They were very embracing, um, acknowledged my history and understand for those who did understand where I'm coming from. I remember meeting a brother. I was having a Q&A after I showed a film, and a very powerful brother. And uh, they had a couple of people had questions about what things that they saw in the film, and the brother knew exactly what they were saying, and he felt offended, and he came right to my defense and began to talk to all the people that were there, and it was nothing that I said to offend anyone in the film. He saw the question as offensive, and he came to my back immediately. He's from an Ashanti brother from Accra, so and he began to speak on because he had more clarity and understanding of things historical, a more historical American context of things than others may have, and so that's where it gets tricky. So you have to understand that they don't have a certain context, and you have to be aware of that. Not to say that they're not reading and writing and are highly intelligent. It's just a matter of getting information or not. So you have to be aware of that when you're talking to people and moving around, moving about. When I went to the slave dungeons, right? Some people call them slave castles, but when I went to the slave dungeons in Cape Coast, I was on a bus. We went out there. There's no bathroom on the bus. 2.5 hour, 3 hour trip. I can't recall. Bus pulls over. We got to go to the side of the road and do what we got to do and hop back on the bus. You have to you have to understand that that's okay, right? Your soil is gonna soil the soil. All right, if that makes any sense. All right. So that's part of what it is. And it wasn't, I think, on the ground, it was in the grass and in the bush, whatever. So these are some of the normalcies that you have to get adjusted to. All right. Not even just with the food and the water, but certain things like that. And you could, have a humble abode, or you can create a home that's like America if you want, for a cheaper price. So, but I think people are willing to work with you. It's just that things aren't as fast and as swift. So if you expect something to happen right away, it's not. It's going to be on what we call in America CP time, right? Color people time. They have African people time, or Ghanaian time, or Nigeria time. Like, it's done in their own time, right? You have many primary documents of British colonizers in Africa trying to set up meetings and wherever they are, and the meeting's supposed to start at a certain time, and the elders trickling in 2, 3, 4 hours later, and them not understanding that way of life that we have and had. So even Erica Badu tells a story about when she got her ethnic group back from her DNA, and then she made a joke about why she's so late to everything, because whatever her ethnic group was, they were notoriously late for everything, right? But they're not late; they're on time, right? So by somebody else's standards, they were late. So these are the things that we have to begin to understand and overstand when we're talking about building the bridge. And it's not to rid all the work that our ancestors made for the land here. It's to build that bridge that your fellow Trinidadians and Guyanese and Jamaicans and people from Nigeria and people from Ghana have, that African Americans don't have, right? We have the South, but we can also build a bridge to have two homes, right? And we might need to escape. Who knows? We don't know, because don't think it's not going to be a backlash from white supremacist nationalist groups with the firepower that they have that we kind of lack. And I hope it doesn't come to that, right? I hope it doesn't come to that. we don't have that firepower. So that's a different discussion. But in regards to making that connection, we need to make the connection. All this, oh, I hate them, and they don't like us, and they don't. And meanwhile, and also, it's a millennial thing, right? The millennials are going over there partying and having a ball and moving over there. People that are, in their 40s and up, African Americans have a lot of issues with that. That they and many haven't traveled over there, so they don't know. So the younger generation kind of like they're hearing the music, they're hearing Naja beats, they're seeing Nollywood movies, they're understanding going to South Africa. They're traveling, and some are relocating. So again, these are some of the things that we have to understand in regards to building the bridge and the connection. I speak to a friend of mine uh, who is from Ghana, Stacy. She's an actress, beautiful sister, and we talk about. And she is a litmus she gives me a lot of information. The brother Kweku, another brother, sister that's over there, a friend of mine, his daughter Nana Ama. So I have people over there that I speak to in regards that's on the ground that are constantly, sharing information. But people overseas who know that it's time for us to make that connection, they're concerned. I had a friend of mine in Paris was like, brother, we here, we in Paris, you have family here, you have family here. If you need to come here, this is, because they're seeing like chaos happening, and they're like concerned, they over in Paris concerned, like, yo, you okay, brother? You okay, brother? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good, man. But so people are for those African Americans who maybe haven't traveled or who don't really have that global understanding or that Pan-Africanist attitude. When I say Pan-Africanist, I mean understanding that we are Black and we have to connect to everyone in the diaspora throughout the Americas and around the world. They are looking at us and are very concerned and have a lot of love for us, opposed to what you might experience here. Yeah, I've experienced the disrespect and that kind of tone, and then I've also experienced, especially once they hear what I'm doing, they're like, "Oh my God, what's the link? How can I see it?" And I'm talking about West Africans. So it's a bridge that we got to build. Enough's enough. We got to fight here. We got to help them fight over there. I mean, there's all kind of ways to. I don't even want to say skin an animal because we're trying to talk from a vegetarian perspective, but there's all kind of ways that we can deal with this. And I just feel like the possibility of dual citizenship through ethnic DNA genealogy is one of the ways, and maybe marriage or whatever else that we feel is a connection. So yeah, and it's funny because I know I have a lot of talking points that I'm going to be mad that I didn't bring up. But in regards to the film, again, there are other things that I'm looking to work on. I'm hoping to do one-to-one interviews with athletes from the continent that are here in America. You have so many that are here in America. And we don't see any story on ESPN or outside the lines or nothing really. And if you see it, it's some kind of, I don't know, coming from this destitute poverty. And now I want to talk about how these West Africans here in America, they get here, they get the sport, whatever the sport is, in 10th, 11th grade, which is extremely late. And then some of them go pro and have like a 4.0 and do well in school and on the field. And I want to have those type of discussions. So I would like to have discussions one-to-one with like brothers like Ira Newble and David West and a lot of these brothers, Etan Thomas, just about history and culture from those athletes, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. These are things that I would love to be able to do that I've written out and are currently working on. So one of the points when I talked about Our God is Black, one of the main points I want to bring out is when I'm talking about all of these ethnic African spiritual religious systems that Black people are now moving in, I want to talk about all the things that they brought to us that we don't even know about. When we talk about all this holistic eating and yoga, all this stuff, like the star set and the Kemetic, people have been doing this for 40, 50 years. I believe, it's my belief, the Rastafarians have been talking about sea moss forever. So I believe whites have, co-opted, and maybe in California, co-opted these ways of life from them and from us, and now began to push it. And now we don't know that this has come from the Kemetics and and the Moors, and How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and even how we greet each other, right? The positive affirmations, even just connecting to Africa comes from Rastafari culture, to mentally repatriate. If you don't go there physically, you're there mentally, right? So these are some of the things that I would like to bring out. The dietary restriction, being vegetarian and stuff. Again, the positive affirmations. Here we use, you've heard these negative terms, Grace, the N word, right? And in hip hop, calling each other bees, right? Calling women bees. But in these African spiritual systems that people have begun to follow, like in the nation of gods and earths, it's peace, God, peace, Queen, peace, Earth, right? You addressing just the word peace. When we say peace, that comes from the nation of gods and earth. These are the things I want to talk. When we say Empress, with the Rastafarians say greetings, Empress, greetings, King. So instead of saying what's up, my N, or what's up, B, you're raising the vibration of how you're speaking to each other. So these are the things that I want to bring out. Independent schools, they've been doing this, right? When we talk about independent schools, we didn't have our own school, they've been doing this. So these are the things that I want to bring out. Hopefully being able to interview people like for people who are aware of Queen Afua, right? And wrote the famous book Sacred Women, Sacred Woman, and the things that she's talked about for decades, right? So these are things that have been around that people are now just getting privy to and calling it Hotep-ish. You know what I mean? And it's like, that nonsense. So it's just like, it's always been my personal opinion, and this is why I talk about the name thing, not just the name thing, to get rid of everything. Wall it up, throw it in the trash, set it on fire, because we know fire is also a cleansing type of thing, right? And now begin to fully embrace us. And yeah, I understand our culture, right? The jazz, the hip hop, the salsa merengue, the capoeira. I understand that, and I'm totally clear of that, right? The way that we dress, street speak, like Dr. John Henry Clark talk about in Harlem, right? So that's our culture, because you have a lot of Black people say, we don't have no culture. We don't have no culture. And is it Crab Fest and basketball? And yeah, it is. But we have two cultures if we want to embrace it, right? So it isn't just the garb, right? But and having locks, dreadlocks, but it's also understanding the connection to each other. There's a lot more, and as we begin to read and understand different ethnic West African cultures, because there's hundreds of them. So I'm saying, read and study all of them if you can. Find out what yours is. If you believe in DNA genetics, learn about it. And that's how you, in my personal opinion, build the bridge. Go and get, food from the restaurants. If you're familiar with them, right? Google them. We do all this now. Everyone's doing this Google. Uber Eats or whatever. Google these restaurants. Start trying the food. You know what I mean? Start to do that. And so, and I think this is what it's going to take. In West Africa, begin to read seminal works like "They Came Before Columbus" by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. How Europe underdeveloped Africa.
Africa, yes.
Yeah, right. Of course, look at "A Great and Mighty Walk" by Dr. John Henry Clark. Right, I talked about this earlier. The Hidden Color series, 1804, those documentaries. Of course, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Right, the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. right? These are seminal works that West Africans can begin to read to get more context and understanding of what it is, where we're coming from, when you constantly hear certain African Americans totally rejecting like white Christianity, totally rejecting we shouldn't be speaking English, totally rejecting carrying the names, totally rejecting a lot of these things. It'll give you clarity and understanding where Caribbeans and African Americans are coming from. You know, Walter Rodney. You know, we can go on and on with the writers and the book list. Some people have an issue with the Willie Lynch letter because some people are saying it's not really a primary document and there might be some historical inaccuracies, but some also agree it's a seminal work and you can still read it and see how it applies. So the Willie Lynch letter, for those West Africans who want to get to know more about African Americans, what we really been through, because that's kind of what they're dealing with. They don't really know when they get here from the diaspora, and they don't understand our personalities and why we're the way we are. Well, we had a knee on our neck. That's why we're like this. All right. If that doesn't make any sense to you before, it should make sense now. That knee on our neck is why we become this type of kind of this white Eurocentric arrogance, right? This way that we are, way that we behave, right? We got all these behaviors from the plantation and from our oppressors. So, you know, try to get clarity on that through film and books and these type of things. All right. And so that's very, very important. Even hip hop, Dead Prez, it's bigger than hip hop, right? The Dead Prez, the group, the album. You can even look at Ice Cube's death certificate. There's a lot of cursing in it, but you know, these are old. I'm aging myself, right? Dating myself, but A Nation of Millions to hold us back, right? Groups like Brand Nubians, it's in the music, right? Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, but the hip hop group of The Roots named their album after the book Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. So the class that I taught, Films of the African World Experience, as a adjunct professor at Keene, I had a list of films that they watched, and I showed them Daughters of the Dust. You know, there's a talk about the Igbo landing in that film, right? In Beyonce's Lemonade, there's a reference to that. So these films are very, very, very important. What else did I show them? I showed them a film called The Spook That Sat by the Door. There's a film called CSA, Confederate States of America. What if the Confederacy won the war and the Union did, right? These are, I showed them Dr. Anthony Browder's video, right? When I went to see him unveil that he found an Adinkra symbol in one of the tombs he's excavating in Nubia. He found the Akoma Adinkra symbol in Nubia. And so I showed them that video because I was actually at the lecture. So these are the things. This is how we begin to unwash our mind and you know, of our white selves, if that makes any sense. All right. So
Thank you, Prof. So don't worry, we have been joined by two people. So we're having William of Melanated Vitriol. He's here. Welcome, William.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree with you, brother, in the sense that African Americans have to have a different mindset. You know, I was in Ghana for a month last year, and I realized I saw a lot of things from African Americans who came to Ghana that I didn't like. You know, like treating Ghanaians like or Africans like they're a spectacle or something, you know, to be viewed and to be filmed, like, you know, some creature or something. You know, basically, what we need to do is come back to the old motherland and act like these are our brothers and our sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your Willie Lynch letter comment is true in that we have been taught to not like Africans. We've been taught that Africans don't like us, and I didn't really understand that fully until we have a community center in which we have a group home, and we brought in a Sudanese homeless family. And
Where are you located, brother?
well, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
All right, shout out to Fort Lauderdale. Shout
But
out.
when we had our group home at this point, at the time I'm talking about, we were in Atlanta, Georgia, and
Okay.
so we had brought in some Sudanese homeless people, and we got to know them, and we took care of them, and we found out, we talked to them, and they told us when they came from Africa, they were told by the white people who brought them over, don't associate with those black people in America. They're no good. They're bad. They're wicked. They're gonna hurt you. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. And so that's the impression that she had of us, or they had of us when they came. You know, it wasn't until we did something, we stretched out and reached out to them and did something for them, they realized, well, that was a lie. Well, that's the same thing we've been told, that Africans, Nigerians don't like us. They don't want to be bothered with us. They look down on us. They think that we done wasted our time here in America. We could be here making big money, and we're lazy, and we don't want to do the things that are necessary to progress. They don't understand the Willie Lynch letter. They don't understand the boot that's been on our neck. You know, and it's not to make an excuse for us in that, because we have enough income as Black Americans to really make a change. But here's the thing: we don't want to make a change. We can't make a change here in America because everything is bought up and everything is overpriced. What the United States has been doing since 1976 with Jimmy Carter and Zbigniew Brzezinski has been trying to keep Black Americans from investing in Africa, because with our resources, with our cash or our wealth and their resources, the continent will be unstoppable. The continent will be unstoppable if we could join Black Americans' wealth with Africa's resources, and we could come together and try to treat each other like brothers and sisters, which we are, and understand that, look, our only enemy has been white propaganda and white brainwashing. That's been our only enemy. And we're not enemies. I'm not an enemy with you, sister. I appreciate what you do. I watch you all the time. You're sincere. You really mean. You care about your people. I care about my people here in America. I care about African people. I got family. When I went to Ghana for a month, I got family in Ghana now. People we deal with regular. If they get into any financial bind, we send them money. If we need something from them, they send it to us. Well, I got family, and that's the way African Americans have to start. You got to visit, establish a relationship with somebody and some people, and forget it, like you said, forget about the different religious beliefs, because I'm under the belief that there was never any white God in antiquity. That was created to make us think that God is white. So when we see white people, we assume that they are part of God. And that is the most damaging thing that's ever been done to our brains, is for us to associate God with a white man. But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. So you're right in what you said, in that you got to get rid of that nonsense when you get to the content. And you're exactly right. And I'm going to add, like, you don't need to do a DNA test and ethnicity, because you get, like what you're saying, you get connected to people, and it's going to be family right off the bat. Now, it's not going to be kumbaya and all that, but if you develop, relationship and trust relationship, you'll have that family there. I'm just saying more of the, just being more intricate in regards to doing the DNA test, and having more specificity in exactly who you are, and being able to move in that. And so I had to address, when I was at a conference doing a lecture, and I don't know if somebody might need to mute. I don't know if it's me or.
There's an echo from somewhere. We also have Pan-Africanism strikes back.
Yeah,
Is
you got
that
to
me?
mute. But what I was going to say was, I had to address this white guy who was like, you doing that DNA could be. Do you think it's what did he mention? He mentioned something about not the Hutu and the Tutsi, but stuff in Europe and this divisional thing. I said, well, I said in a white supremacist society, we never really had those divisions until Berlin Conference and you coming and dividing all of this stuff up. Right? There were ethnic divisions, but not to the effect of what is that you're saying. I said, in order for us to be able to understand our culture, right, we have to first be able to reach back and know what that is. You can be, I said, in America, I said, with white supremacy in America, there could have been a kumbaya if white supremacists were white supremacists. And during the Hanukkah, everyone's all of America is dressing in Hanukkah garb. During Chinese New Year, all of America is dressing in Chinese garb. During Kwanzaa, right? And I got to be able to kick it with Malana Karenga in regards to that. Everyone in America should be dressing up in Kwanzaa garb. Like that's the world technically that you're saying or lying about with this melting pot or this diverse and all this stuff that you say that we have that we don't do. And in Hidden Colors of 4, Tariq Nasheed talks about specifically look at the Black church. Why is this church so segregated if we all under this Christian God and everyone loves everybody? Why is the church so segregated? So we understand that there's cultural and ethnic differences, and it's okay to be prideful in them and share with each other. So that's where I'm coming from with the DNA and all and everything that. But when I spoke with Dr. Cambone, I also agree with it doesn't matter. We're not a monolithic group. We have many ethnicities, but if we're in a game that utilizes imperialism in that, then and whatever these rules of the games are, we're gonna have to, whether you're again Ashanti, Akan, Ewe, Ga, African American, Haitian descent, whatever, Bamaleke, we talked about that earlier. You're gonna have to deal with that real Marcus Garvey red, black, and green flag, because that's what the flag truly represents. It's supposed to be for the whole diaspora. You're gonna have to understand that and then be able to come together under that umbrella, but still take pride in the different ethnic groups that we can, take pride in.
We have Pan-Africanism Strikes Back also on the show. So let's hear.
Peace, brother.
Welcome. Let me
Hey,
unmute. Yes,
can
I
you
can
guys
hear.
hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure because I have a little wind right here. But
Okay.
so basically
Talk to you, brother.
what I wanted to say was I mean, we have all these different, requirements, right? We got to do this, we got to do that, and this is what we got to do. And what you see is two things. First, first people tell our people that there's all these prerequisites before we can go back to Africa, right? And then they start talking about how we got to do that. But one thing I notice with people is when it's something that they want to do, they say, I'm going to school. I'm going to go get a job. I'm going to go do that. But then when it's something that's like where it's just a talking point, it's always we. It's this demand that other people have to do something. That's why I just focus on What am I doing? What am I going to do, etc. No one's going to read all those books. No one's going to listen to all that stuff. People nowadays have the attention span of like a toddler, 6 minutes max, right? Maybe in the 60s or the 70s, that was the answer, right? And your age is not shown when you're talking about the music. Your age is shown when you're talking about the plan or the method of doing it. And what I'm saying is Chinese, all the other cultures are going to Africa. They ain't reading no damn books first. They ain't listening to this album or that album. They're not worried about if these people are going to be able to accept them and all that stuff. They go there and you have a situation where our people are actually like low-key worshiping them, right? So clearly for an African person to bring you in or to welcome you in, it's not really this thing where you have to make them make them comfortable with who you are or make them knowledgeable of who you are. In reality, you just gotta get there. You just gotta be there. And it's not even a situation where you have to it's not even a situation where you have to be like, we got to be careful or walk on eggshells when we get over there. It's just more of a situation like you have to take that leap. You have to take that leap. Because even black people in America, we get along with white folks just fine. White folks don't give a damn about how we feel about nothing, but we figure it out because that's what we want to do. So if you want to do something, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be exactly what you want it to be if you just take the first steps, right? One thing I love about what this brother said, the older gentleman, he was like, everything was what, kind of whatever, but the part that I really keyed in on when he was like, I have family in Ghana now, right? As soon as he started saying that's when my ears open up, and I'm like, yo, because now I can look at his example and follow him, right? When he's talking about we, I'm like, dude, I could say we need to fly to the moon. I'm not doing that. So how can I say we need to do it? You know what I'm saying? So really what we really got to start doing is stop shuffling our damn feet and stop having all these Negro stalling tactics and just be where we claim we want to be. Because we don't stall to go up in these dealerships. We don't make all these prerequisites to go up in these dealerships and buy these cars, or let the white man rule our mind and tell us you need a big house, you need a good job. We don't gotta be like, oh, but first I gotta go read this book. Hell no. We just go out and we learn on the fly, and eventually we get to that place. And when we understand, like Dr. Amos Wilson said, we're being ruled by the power of influence. We understand that influence is a very powerful factor in all this. And if you think that Africans in Africa are already influenced by African Americans, so since we already have the influence, all the other stuff is really not necessary. All you got to do is show up. And just like this, brother, and if you've been to Africa, you've experienced it. When you just show up, the Africans love you. You don't got to freaking read no books. You don't got to do nothing. As long as you're not a total asshole, you're good, right? And the people who come with the wrong mindset, wasn't gonna stay no way. That's just vacation for them, right? But the people with the right mindset, they gonna see it, and the spirits are gonna identify with each other, and then it's gonna be a whole nice situation. So I just want to chime in on that part. So it ain't all these requirements. Just get a plane ticket and go over there and see if you like it. And if you like it, you're gonna make it work. Just like you show up to your job and you're silent when you need to be silent, not to ruffle no feathers, and you speak up when you need to speak up to make sure everything is cool. Just take that. Just approach your people with half the respect you give the white man and all the other races, and you'll be just fine.
Yes, and so to speak to that, and so I agree with everything.
I'm gonna listen, but I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna listen though.
Yes, and so I definitely love what that brother said, and to give understanding. So I agree with everything that he said. And now you also have to understand that before we even come to that understanding, we read the books first, and we didn't really people weren't really sort of connecting like that until they came into like a certain cultural consciousness and understanding. Now for Africans, you're definitely right. Like we need to just go there. It doesn't need to be all of that. At the same time, to what I am saying is to give context, right? And I said specifically for Africans who want to understand our plight, those are the things that you should do. So it's not definite. So it's not a prerequisite, but within that prerequisite, that comes this urge to now be able to look to Africa when we also quote Amos Wilson, because the audience may not even know who Amos Wilson is. So it took us that type of what I have like a one-on-one in regards to entry into understanding history and culture. But once we understand that, then we also move into that. Now I'll also speak on maroon, if we understand what maroon is. And so it's only going to be because everybody's not going to agree with it, right? So the ones that are doing it, the ones who believe in it, is sort of like a maroon community, if you will. And if we understand who the maroons were the people who escaped from the plantation and developed their own society and communities. So everyone's not going to agree. So, but I understand what he says in we, and I understand the point, and I agree with the point where you just go there and you make it happen because the love and stuff is there. You don't need everything else. But everything else in regards to the documentaries, the books, and all that does help. And we have to be mindful. People are now, especially after this knee in the neck, and me being a professor, people are looking and searching for that information, and they want to hear it. And it's that information that also develops the mental gateway to the continent. And so we can't take that, we can't sort of, I don't want to say undermine or take that for granted. That's something that still needs to happen. I also, if it makes any sense, I also agree with you do just need to go over there, even regardless of if you read all of that stuff or not. I think it does help. And then for what I'm saying is specifically when I mention all the books and stuff, for Africans who don't have understanding and want to get more clarity, you can use those tools to get more clarity. And Africans seem to have patience as opposed to here. I don't know. I don't want to stereotype that 6 seconds and 6 minute attention span that we are having. As we get older, we're starting to get it because of the social media. And so I also feel like there is a point, but I also know that people need points of reference so that they don't go over there disrespecting. And like you said, show that let's just give half of the respect when it comes to white people. But yeah, but I agree with majority, almost everything of what was said. I just want to get clarity to also where I'm coming from in regards to like when he mentioned the elder being on the ground and learning from that perspective, irregardless of the rhetoric that we often talk about within these circles. But it's going to take that rhetoric to the people who disagree with Africa and disagree with everything that we're talking about to maybe want to build a bridge. I could be hypocritical in what I'm saying and saying that maybe we might not even have to worry about them. Maybe it's just the people who understand, who get it. We have this understanding. If you want to just be here, then you do that. But those who understand, for the reasons that we understand, we make the move. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that.
Okay.
And there's the Nas brother. Who's the brother Nas that just came in?
Nad, are you there?
Yeah, hi, hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay, good evening.
Good
Welcome.
Hiya, I'm calling from the UK, and I would just like to say, first of all, that I'm sending everyone that's Black, everyone that is suffering right now in America, I'm sending you all my love, because here in the UK, all our hearts, all our souls have been very heavy. And the death of George Floyd has impacted us all very much. And for that, we are sorry and we stand with you.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do believe that the reason why you guys need to go home is because America is not your home, number one. Number two, when we went through slavery, we were scattered everywhere. It's even written in the Bible, okay? Although the Bible's been modified so many times, but we've been scattered everywhere. Now, here in the UK, there's always this sort of, debate against Africans and Jamaicans. Jamaicans don't like Africans because Jamaicans will say that we sold them out during slavery times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and then Africans will say, Jamaicans are not very smart, whereas they're not very educational. They don't go through the route of education. They go more the route of working. Whereas Africans, we know from birth is education, education, education. Okay. Now, I believe that a lot of Americans are lost in the sense of because you guys do not know where you come from. You do not know your roots. If you find your roots and you know where you come from, I believe you'll be able to overcome a lot of the barriers that you are currently facing. I come from Congo, okay? I wasn't born in this country. I was born back home. So in coming in this country, I lost a bit of my culture. I lost a bit of the essence of who I was and where I came from. Now, I gained that back because I witnessed how we were being treated. I witnessed how getting a job wasn't easy. although I may be in a high position, it's still a struggle. You're still seen as if you're, you know, lower than your counterparts. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's like you're always having to fight. You're always having to fight. So with everything that's going on, I think a lot of us, even in the UK, it's not even in America, even in the UK, we're all saying that, yeah, we need to go home. I spoke to one of my friends a couple of weeks ago, and she told me that a few of her friends are planning to go home. They are planning to go home. They've built a business in the UK, and they're going home to expand on it, so then they can help the people back home get jobs, work for them, build their own business as well. That's
Exactly.
why you guys were placed in America. You guys were placed not only to build the White House, you guys were placed in America so you can accumulate all the skills and knowledge that's needed and required for you to grow, so you can take it back to where you originally came from.
Which is Marcus Garvey's theory, yes.
Exactly. We are the true Israelites. We are the chosen people. The reason why we're subjected to so much hate, because we as Black people do not see what these white people see in us, what these racist people see in us. You know the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That sentiment is so relevant to today and to what's going on, because we are a threat to them.
Absolutely.
We work harder than they do. We learn faster than they do. We innovate quicker and unique things than they do, and they copy everything that we do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in that essence, I just believe that, yeah, you guys do need to go home, and you need to stop believing every person that comes to America and claims to be, you know, a teacher or a person that knows everything about Africa and whatnot, because the majority of them don't. I was just writing a private message to Grace, and I was telling her that there was a woman that I saw went to America, and she was having these events, and she was claiming to be the Queen of Congo. I sent it to my dad back home, and I said, Dad, who is this woman? She's claiming to be the Queen of Congo. My dad said, give me a second, because he was busy at the time. And then he said to me, we don't know her back here. We do not know her back here. She's claiming to be from the Muluba tribe, the Bantu tribe. We do not know her. So you need to be very vigilant. Accumulate information as you possibly can, but also be vigilant. Take heed to what's good and what's not. Collect all the information that you need, but also research it yourself so you can come to your own conclusion, because you're going to have a lot of people that's going to try to deceive you. A lot of people that are going to say they're here to help you, but they're not.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that so
I had
much.
a question for Miss Grace. I had a question for Grace. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can Grace hear me?
Grace.
Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The question is as a Nigerian, what do you feel about African Americans? What have you been told? What have you been taught? What do you? How did you guys feel about us?
Great question. Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I get this question a lot, and I've been on some shows, some live streams where I've answered this question. So the thing is, colonialism, as we were taught, was from the history and the perspective of Nigerians, how the Europeans came to Africa, to Nigeria, and engaged in some sort of trade with our ancestors, and then of course they captured some of our people and took them away to America, and to the Caribbean and all of that. But the emphasis usually is on the colonial activities that happened in Nigeria, and the trade that the colonial masters had with our ancestors. Nothing is said much about our people who were taken away, and the whole experiences that they've had, and the whole experience of even traveling through the high sea and all of that, then getting to America, and the experiences that they continue to have till date. So what that means is a lot of Nigerians, I speak for Nigeria because I'm Nigerian, a lot of Nigerians do not really, I would say, do not really relate with the experiences of African Americans and Africans in the Caribbeans. There's this sort of disconnect. So an average Nigerian out there
Yeah.
does not really understand what the situation is with African Americans. You stop a Nigerian on the road just randomly. So what do you think about African Americans? And they'll be like, probably nothing really. Well, they're African Americans. The much they might tell you is, well, they were taken from here. There were people we know, they were taken from here. Now they have lived all their lives there, and that's who they've become. African Americans or Black Americans, like we call generally. But for a lot of us who have taking the responsibility to read up, to interact because of this platform that I have, of course. Now I understand better, and I think I can say I get it quite clear what the experiences of African Americans are, and then of course I feel African Americans, I see them just the way I see Nigerians. There's nothing much different about us when you remove the fact that your experiences have been American. If you take that out and have to deal with you, and I have to deal with you just as a human being, then I see you not different from myself, because of course you have the same skin color as me. You are an African just as I am, and like I always say, except you open your mouth and speak, I might not say you are an African American, or you're a Jamaican, or an African in the Caribbean. So that's basically how it is. And I feel I take you just the way I take Nigerians. Like I've said, you are welcome to Nigeria anytime. You're welcome to Africa. And one thing you need to understand is Africans are very welcoming.
Yes,
When
we
you
are.
find yourself in Africa as an African American, or
Mhm.
as an African in the Caribbean, the welcome is something that would blow your mind. I know a lot of African Americans and Africans in the Caribbean have this mindset that Africans do not love them or do not welcome them, but that's not the case. If you make your way to the continent, you see that there's this warm welcome generally that we give to people, not just to Africans. And
Mm.
you'll be surprised to learn that even the people who have the white skin, the white people, when they come to Africa, the way they are welcomed, they are received, it's so overwhelming. It's like we forget the fact that we had a bitter history, that these people forced on us. We welcome them, we treat them very well. A lot of Nigerians marry white people, and have families, and everybody lives happily. So it's really important for our African Americans and Africans in the Caribbean to understand that as Nigerians, as Africans, we love you, we accept you, we welcome you to Nigeria, we welcome you to Africa. We see you just the way we see ourselves. We see you as our brothers, we see you as our sisters. So
Mhm.
I'm guessing that pretty much answers your question, Williams. Does
Yes,
that?
thank you. It does. I appreciate that. It's
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Another thing that Americans need to stop doing is stop relying on these celebrities, especially the black celebrities. They're not for you, people. They're not for you guys. They're not
Mhm.
for Oprah, for one, is definitely not for you guys. She is not for you guys at all. Do not rely on them to save you. Do not look at them as saviors. You are your only savior. You are your only savior. You are the only people that can take yourselves out of this mess. Start building your own businesses. Stop looking at the next person as competition. The person next to you, you don't know when you may need them. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't rely on these celebrities, because I'm yet to see one of them actually do anything positive or donate any sort of money towards this cause.
Yeah, it's very rare. Like you rarely see it. For example, for those who are familiar with Dr. Benyakin, and I talked about, I don't know, doing interviews on African athletes. These are the athletes that are very well read and cultural and travel to the continent and understand Pan-Africanism and stuff like that. You don't, and I agree, you don't really have that here. It's very rare. This brother, his name is Doug West, not Doug West. Why am I thinking of David West? And he played basketball. He's really, really good basketball player, but nobody knew how aware and conscious he is. I don't think people still don't. He gave money for Dr. Ben's funeral, right? You never even have stuff like that. That's why I agree with the sister from Britain. You don't really have real entertainers and sports figures that really are collectivizing and creating a African American or African reality in doing these things. It's very rare. I had a huge issue with Michael Jordan and got into some back and forths with some friends because there's for those who are overseas, last week there was a big documentary series on Michael Jordan. And since 1993, I kind of like was so dismissed on him and a lot of his lack of concern for a lot of things in regards to the community. And there's a book called $40 Million Slaves. Whether you're a sports fan or not, it's a great seminal read for Black people and people in the world in regards to sports figures and what it is that you're speaking on, the sister from the UK. So yeah, I understand that. There's a very small percentage that are putting their money where their mouth is and doing things and understand what it is. We can't always sit around and hope that this knee on the neck will wake people up because, you know, we can just talk about story after story after story. I remember being in Queens when they shot up the brother. I think I was 2 blocks away in Queens when the brother who was going to get married, Sean Bell, got murdered. And I literally was on that block, I think 2 days before, because there's, I think, a restaurant and a bar and stuff over there. And then next thing you know, this whole Sean Bell thing and the police killed him and this whole thing. I'm looking on the television. I was like, man, that's a couple of blocks away. So this is very close. And sometimes when something like this happens, there may be change, but I'm not sure. And so that's why we're having this discussion now. Should we stay? Should we repatriate? And I appreciate all the information that you're sharing. And I see the brother George. There's a brother that just popped online, the brother George. So how are you, brother?
I'm good. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome all. Virtue, thank you for passing on the link and having me come on. I've listened quite a bit to everything you all have been saying and the wisdom and the searching for answer. It's all been fantastic. I have a perspective, and I just want to ask you all to grant me your audience and listen keenly and carefully. The sister from the UK who just spoke, Virtue, and my friends, my brothers right here on screen with me, I agree with her 100%. Everybody seems to want to have an answer for Africa, but you can't have a working answer until you understand the culture and the history of the people, which most of us don't. And I speak as a Nigerian American, good friends with Virtue. The point of all of this is this. There's been a time when we tried the forced repatriation. President Monroe of America. I'm an American, Nigerian American by choice. I've lived in the U.S. some 38 years. I've achieved my goals and I'm still achieving them. I'm not done yet. We have a situation that warrants a forum, a Pan-African forum, One that too will include the African American born and raised in the United States. Because much of the problem we have is not just the physical, not just the intellectual, not just the social, but also spiritual problems. My friends, when you think you're my enemy and I think you think I'm your enemy and I think you're my enemy, we're so way off base. The spiritual forces at work that we may deny or accept. And these spiritual forces are like one of the shows Virtue did once when she traveled to Ghana. It's like puppet masters. And they are spinning you and I, and we see each other because I'm physical and you're physical. You think, George, you're my problem. You're standing in my way. I can't be progressive unless I knock you off your pedestal. Listen, folks, Africa has always existed. In fact, it be the birthplace of civilization. Africa's been through it all. We made a mess of ourselves when we traded our brothers for silly nonsense. For insignificant gain, we threw our brothers into ships and took them off to America, enslaved them. Black Africans have suffered a great deal, folks. And I speak as one whose imagination, intellect, and spirit has been enlightened. No disrespect to any of us, but choose to hear me or choose to ignore me, but I will make this point. Africans in America have a mentality that is still enslaved. Even with education, we're still bound. Is it any wonder that the first African-American president we had is someone who had a Kenyan father and white mom? Why is it that even when I run into my fellow African-Americans here in America, there is a sense in which we think because the Caucasoid has a white skin that he has the better answer. And when Monroe, in his, let's say, trial and error, sent Black Africans into Liberia, it didn't take too long for that whole situation to unravel. Because the African Americans who went into Liberia thought of their African brothers, native born, as inferior.
Yeah, I don't know if you came on when you came on, but I talked about the Americals earlier. So I talked about that whole Americals, the book and everything. Yeah.
I hear you, my brother. I hear you.
It led to one of the worst civil wars in Africa.
Yeah, please do. I hear you. You spoke eloquently and very brilliant. I listened to you as well. But here's what I'm saying to us all. What we have to do in Africa and for the Black African American, for the African American in the United States is going to be encompassing. It's not just give us a piece of land and let's come in and build. The African American in the United States has to have a mind liberation. It hasn't happened yet. I speak as someone whose profession is a counselor, as well as a Christian, as well as a teacher. The point of it is that we have got to be liberated first. Before we come to Africa and we come and say, may I have a seat at this conference table? Not as a people coming in wanting to take over Africa. Africans won't permit that. First, we got to have a reconciliation where the African brother and the African American brother get to see each other, maybe weep tears, cry tears over the harm, the mess we've made of ourselves, how I sold my brother into slavery, and he's not quite healed yet. Somebody spoke of Michael Jordan and some of the others who played sports, made their millions through sports. They still find themselves being subservient to white folks. They aren't quite liberated yet. You see when they come on television, you hear when there are issues such as George Floyd being killed in Minnesota, that you find these men get also speechless, looking for ways and places to sort of say, well, we'll fund you should you get sued in court. Never a total harmonizing of what Black folks are dealing with by identifying with them like Muhammad Ali did way back then, when he had the choice of either going to war or not going to war. He didn't mind to say, make me an example. That's what you wish to do. I'm not fighting in Vietnam and killing brown people. They aren't my enemy. So there is a sense in which we find ourselves wanting to bring into Africa methods, procedures, ideologies that we tried here in America, where I am today, and failed. For all of their persuasion, militant and otherwise, by Black Panthers, they never got one of the 50 states for Black folks. They sort of wanted that. It didn't happen. And it's not happening now. And if you're thinking, oh, let me run away from the USA and go into Africa because things will be better there, folks, that's a lie. You're lying to yourselves, okay? Because Africa has a set of problems that requires native-born African solutions. And you better believe it, Africans have a lot of educated people. A lot of the professors here in America with me are Nigerian professors. Most of the doctors are Nigerian doctors. Your Gatwick International Airport in the UK is owned by a Nigerian man. London City Airport, owned by a Nigerian man. We have the funds, we have the money, we have the intellect. But we haven't yet thought of, let me go back to Africa and develop Africa in a very humble, civil way. Let's have a conference, much like Mandela did in South Africa, bringing the people together, saying we have got to forgive the white person who's done us wrong. Forgiving doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're preferring to pass on responsibility for who gets to judge to the proper judge, who isn't playing favorites, and that's God. But right now we have cities in California next door to me burning. Black people are killed, and we don't really have a real game plan. We shout and we scream Black Lives Matter because one of us gets killed. But what do we do when that passes over? We shut up like that's the end of it. It's all good. And when I see a Black African man or African American coming into America and coming into Africa and opting to pretend he has answers and solutions, I scratch my head. I don't see wisdom there. If you're coming to Africa with money, you want to build business, build business. You're coming to Africa, you want to begin to reconcile yourself and adopt a nation, adopt a nation. Identify with you, whoever, whatever country identifies with you. But realize that until you sit down with the natives, that you may think aren't smart enough, but they are. And until you get yourself in a situation where you view them as equals, you can't begin to enter into African society. And I say that as an African. And I also know America well enough to speak for Black American brothers, for I know where they've been. And I know they still have a mentality that is subservient. Rise up. That's why I understood what that woman in the UK was saying. Everything she said was on point with me. However, in my view of it, I'm not just taking the intellectual side. I see it both ways. I see the intellect and I see the spiritual demise. You want to get yourselves on equal footing with the white man? You want to come into Africa and do some good deeds and promote business and be on par? Begin by self-healing. Get spiritually connected with your maker. Ask him, how do I act? How do I behave? How do I contribute? How do I begin to turn my enslavement into liberation and teach my children to know better? And that's what I've done with my kids. I speak of that of which I know. My son is merely 26 years old. He's at Harvard. He's in Harvard University. Very brilliant. We don't have a good relationship because I need to train him too to know, hey, intellect is not enough. Have a good relationship with your daddy. I have a daughter who's 25, fashion designer in Chicago. We speak, and she knows what her father is about. So I'm not man who's going to take sides because I'm African. Oh, let me see the African way. Or because I'm an American, let me see the American way. I see a balance. But besides all of that, my friends, you gotta have a life coming to you, a connection with your maker. It makes you see that the white man is not truly your enemy. Satan is your enemy. It lets you know that the white man who kneels on your neck and kills you in broad daylight is a minion to Satan. So I turn my anger from my fellow blacks or even from the white person, and I nail it on the one on whom it belongs. Satan, the puppet master, and for all who fall into his ranks and under his influence. Somebody mentioned earlier, our problem is an influence problem. And we have a bunch of religions that have no answer. America, wake up. Africa, wake up. The answer lies beyond you. It's a spiritual warfare, friends.
Yes.
It's not even intellectual. And I wrote a book called Awake Now. It will be out any day now. Go on Amazon and get it. Read and understand that your life is more than physical. I get so pissed off when I see people come on platforms like this and they spew out nothing but nonsense. Get it. Your life is short. You don't have a long life.
George, that was absolutely beautiful, and I agree with everything that you said, especially the spiritual aspect of it. I was saying to my friend yesterday, and I was like, Haiti, although the colonizers have placed them more as Caribbeans, they're Africans, okay, because they speak French. Haiti is the only African country that has respectfully gained independence. They done it themselves without anyone's help because they knew their roots. They knew how to communicate with the maker. You need to understand Christianity was brought onto us. I'm a Christian, but I'm starting to understand the Bible in a different way. Okay? Why is it that somebody that doesn't like you, somebody that sees you as crap on the floor, introduces you to this religion? Do you think is it to benefit you or is it to benefit them? That is the question that we need to start asking ourselves. We need to start basically relearning a lot of the things that we have been taught. We need to read, like George mentioned. We need to educate ourselves again. We need to educate our children again. This is spiritual welfare. Because it's very funny to me that at this present time, that these people have got time to go to the moon. Why are you going to the moon for? What's up there? Because right now we're being distracted with a lot of things that's going on, and spiritually we're not aligned with what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Another thing that Black people need to do, a lot of things that all of us worldwide, because we're scattered everywhere, we need to move in silence. That's one thing that we need to do. We need to move in silence. One thing that I've learned is that the Haitians, they moved in silence. The Chinese, they move in silence. The white man, they move in silence. Indian people, they move in silence. We need to come collectively. We need to plan, and we need to move in silence. We can't be loud. We can't be protesting, yes, but for me, I personally don't think that protesting will make much of a difference. It's not the same as it was back in the days when Malcolm X was talking. It wasn't the same when Rosa Parks refused to get off the bus. It wasn't the same when Martin Luther King had tens and thousands of people listening and taking heed to his word. Not only his people, but the white people. The reason why they were so successful is because they had the belief, the hope. Presently, we don't have that collectively. That's why I don't believe that protesting will not work. You cannot leave your house and go and say, yeah, for George Floyd. No, it will not work. There's a ritual. There's a ritual that takes place before you leave your house for you to go and protest. There's a ritual. You need to communicate with your maker, like George said. You need to make a plan with him. He will direct you because you are his chosen one. You can't go around operating life thinking that you can do it by yourself because you didn't get here by yourself.
And so I have to speak on all of that. And so I don't agree with a couple of points that I heard, but overall, I do agree with the majority of what was said. And I don't say I don't want to. I don't agree. I don't want to say that. We cannot leave out the historical impact of enslavement to the mind. The psychology of that is often overlooked in this discussion all the time. We can talk about everything that we want to talk about, but if we don't know and really research, not the physical, but the psychology within enslavement, that's when we'll have more clarity, empathy, and compassion for what has happened. Now, I understand the spiritual element. I understand the economic elements and all the elements that we bring up. But and I'm talking about all the discussions. And we always, and we're so used to saying slavery that it's become a word, right? That's just been normalized in the lexicon. But we never, and it's all of us, and I'm guilty of it too, with things that I do and say. But that, and where I agree with George is that it's a mental health issue from 400 years. And so everything that you see that's happening in response, in regards to connection to the maker, the spiritual, all of these things, we have some of those. We have most of, or we have some of that in our connection to spirituality. But when we talk about, and I'm hoping and I understand that maybe people have read, slave narrative, and the understanding in regards to the eugenics and the science movement in the late 18th century. When we talk about Black codes, when we talk about all these specific elements, how to make a slave, you're seeing that played out. And so now, what I agree with George is that, and the sister from England, is that you have to undo that. But there also has to be, what I didn't hear, and I say you guys don't understand that. What I did hear was the specific and strategic way to make what you made in regards to African Americans, which is different from anything and every place in the world. And so all the positive things that we love globally about us, but then the things that are bad, we also understand comes from that amalgamation and that collection of DNA and study and research and our cognitions of the continent and then being here, but also each and every psychological element from year to year to year, we can't dismiss. And so a lot of times you'll have people say, oh, we know that already. We understand, or we don't. Because just by you making that statement, when people, not you, but when people make that statement, you're undermining how serious and how much literature and primary documents and evidence is around historically in regards to slavery and just how it affected us mentally, because we always deal with the physical and this and that, and we'll talk about certain elements of how they got us to how they came to enslave us, but it's all of those psychological elements that you're seeing played out of why there isn't a connection. And so that's why I talked about earlier, where there may have to be a certain type of maroonage in that there's only certain type of people that's going to quote unquote get it. And when we talk about the Americas and people going to Africa with this Eurocentric mentality, and I talk about that often and trying to bring this very Western, really white man's mind into that scenario. And so, for example, when we talk about Dr. Cambone, who's very studied and well researched in understanding languages, culture, and he lives in Ghana, who speaks pre-colonial Twi and Ewe in these languages and stuff, and understands things from a pre-colonial perspective. These are the elements that it's going to take. There was a gentleman that was on before, who I'm not sure if he was dismissing all of that. I'm not sure, so I don't want to speak for him. But it's important to have a certain understanding, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes going over there. And maybe it's okay to go over there and if you go there, make certain mistakes, but you learn from them and move forward in trying to understand what it's going to take. And like I said earlier, it may not just be going there, strictly going there, but building the bridge and then doing the study and the research to try to understand and overstand your brothers, who even for us, we're trying to get some kind of knowledge. British primary schools did they in Jamaica and West Africa absolutely wasn't teaching anything in regards to anything that we're talking about. And so it's within that triangle, Caribbean, Africa, and African Americans, all of these things are missed in regards of what it's going to take. And so this is something like Dr. John Henrik Clarke says, we cannot talk about this enough because there's so many elements to unpack. But I also want us to understand the level of psychological warfare done in regards to when they picked us up and put us on the boats. And so any interaction that you're having this in regards to even how much some of us might feel we're liberated through reading and studying and research. No, we're African American and we come from Africa, but we also come from an enslaved European psychological understanding of life, reality, and even spirit. And that's another debate that can be had because that's a different kind of debate where I know brothers and sisters that will totally disagree with the concept of spirit coming from a certain angle and a certain lens. And some even believe that's the reason why we suffer, because we chose a different path. So I have brothers who feel that way when we get into the spiritual debate and context around why it is that we're suffering. So I agree with understanding the African elements of everything that we need to know in regards to religion and those things. But it's a deeper and heavier conversation that we must have. And I don't know if you were on earlier. I talked about 1804, the sister from Britain. I don't know if you were on earlier, but I talked about 1804 and the film. And there are a few questions that people have about the film, but it talks about specifically that Haitian Revolution. And then it also talks about solutions from that film and from that happening that could help in the diaspora, specifically with Caribbean Americans and African Americans. So I know we're on.
I didn't want to talk much about spiritual because, you know, we all come from. There could be Muslims online. There could be people who practice indigenous religions online. And if you come from a Christian perspective, you know, you kind of push these people out of the picture in terms of the conversation because, you know, if I come from a Christian perspective, you know, as George mentioned, you know, he doesn't have anything against white people per se or any human being. He understands that Satan is behind the evil, you know, spiritual wickedness in high places. You know, I understand that also. However, you know, the Bible says if a man steals something and he get caught, he's got to return what he stole sevenfold. That's not a spirit that's going to return it. That's the man. So what we teach is that the man has to get control of his self. That's Christian religion, is controlling yourself, understanding what your responsibility is to the Most High God. I've been a pastor. I've been a Hebrew Israelite pastor for 20 years. So I understand these things. And I understand that the reason why the Christianity that's in Africa, the Christianity that's in America, is a perverted Christianity. Mm-hmm. It's not what's in the Bible. If you read the book and you read what God said he wants you to do, there is nothing the Sunday church is doing that God said do. And I'm just being real with you. But see, I don't want to get into this argument because I know I'm going to have a fight with somebody out there. And I don't want to fight. But I just want you to understand that, look, I see the spiritual, and I understand, I agree with you in that there is no American, you know, that's the mindset of Americans, you know, we're exceptionalism, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Special, you know. And I went to Ghana, I purposely refused to take that mindset that I was better than the Ghanaians for any reason, because I'm not. In fact, I might have had a few dollars because I saved up to go over there. But basically, I was no more richer than most of them, you know. It's just that simple, you know. And so that's how I carry. I live. I keep my overhead low. I don't, you know. cars, stuff don't mean anything to me and my family. Our goal is people. Our we're people. And so as far as the religious aspect is concerned, George, I agree with you. However, people, if you allow yourself to be used by Satan, you're going to be held accountable. And that's the point. And so I don't give the white man a complete pass on everything that's been done because he's a human being. Everybody, I'm a human being. We're all human beings. But there has been, you cannot call yourself, you can't say that you're believing in the Christian religion and do what you've done to black people and colonized Africa as you have for the last 400 years. So there's something wrong with your Christian religion. There's something wrong with it. It's not effective. And if you want to talk about Muslim and Islam and Allah and all these different religions, the only religion that I know that explains why black people are in the condition that they're in is the Bible. Where was Allah when they took us and drug us into ships? Where was smoke? Where was these smoke in the bowl religions, with cigars and whatever in the corner? Where were these gods at when they grabbed us and took us away? The only one that I know that explains what happened to us and why it happened is the Bible. But again, I don't, I refrain from going there because I know that it's going to turn off people who have different mindsets about religion. I would prefer to deal with the fact that, look, I'm black and I don't care. And this is something Nigerians got to understand. My brother George, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when an African come to America or a Jamaican or a Caribbean come to America or an black English person come to America, white America treats that person a little higher than they do the average black American. It's like a caste system, and of course we got our caste system with the the lighter you are, the better you progress in this society. But then they also play Caribbean and Africans against us. They'll tell them, look, we don't know what's wrong with those black Americans. You guys work hard. You guys are smart. You guys are this. You guys are that. And so the African Americans, the Africans, and the Caribbeans come to America and they look at black Americans to a certain degree, like, you guys have wasted a lot of time, and you're not, you could be rich now. You could have all your goals succeeded, but they don't see the fact that there is a caste system here, and there's it's like levels of white privilege. It's called meritorious manumission. The reason why the athletes don't speak out, because they are getting meritorious manumission. If they say anything positive about us, they could lose their position and they won't get their money. So they have to, I watch these athletes, basketball players, you watch their camps. Camps are full of white people because they can afford to pay for their services. But these brothers come out of the hood. They don't come back to the hood and say, look, we're going to make sure that, there's enough of our young people out here who have understanding of what they need to do if they want to make it in basketball or football or in accounting or in engineering. These things are usually taken because if they do anything to help their people, trust me, I run a community center. I'm all about helping black people. Everything we have done, we have fought for black people. And because of that, we are ostracized by white people. Now, if I come and say, look, the Negroes that I'm trying to help, they really don't know, they're just stupid, they're just dumb. And, and I take that mentality, I can get all the money I want. But if I come and say, look, these people are being mistreated, you're going to have to change what you're doing. We need, look, you spend in Fort Lauderdale, they spend $65 million a year taking care of poor black children. But they've been poor for the last 20 years. So the money is going somewhere else. And when you speak up about these things and you try to change these things with white people, they come after you, and they come after you in every way possible. Watch a movie called Changing Lanes with I can't remember his name. Changing Lanes. What it was about was how they can secretly ruin your credit. They can secretly cause you not to be able to get a job. Wherever you go get a job, they got to call your old job. And then when they find out that you have bought a house or a car, now all of a sudden when you come to work, the attitude has changed because now they know that you're dependent on them. Now it's like, well, I'm gonna need you more hours. I'm gonna need you to work overtime with no pay. Why? Because they know now that you got a brand new car and you got to pay for it. You got a house, and so now they have a leverage. This is what Black Americans go through, and so that's what I see, and that's what I'm very spiritual, and I understand. I will give a white man the shirt off my back. If he's hungry, I'll feed him. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that I live in a white society. It's like Muhammad Ali said, you got 1,000 snakes out there, and only 2 of them aren't venomous. Are you going to let all those snakes in the house, hoping that the 2 that aren't venomous are the ones that bite you? You can't tell the difference, and that's the dilemma we are in as Black people. We got white people who are good white people. They try to help us, but then we're caught with this situation where we got white people. The majority of white people work against us. So if we try to pretend that all of them are okay and all of them are good, we're going to end up hurt, which is what usually happens, which is what happens to us.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
And many times, again, the scientific racism, the institutional racism, the level of racism, white supremacy, as well as the psychological enslavement, we can't miss all of that. And these are the intricacies of understanding and understanding that we have to have, from welfare to work to redlining to it just takes and it takes years to understand that. And I remember I would have these debates at a university when I was undergrad, and it's almost like you had the Caribbeans, African Americans who were well-read in, Walter Rodney and whoever else, right? These scholars and theorists. And then you had those who were clueless to that, and we were just going at it. You know what I mean? And so it would be the Ghanaian and Nigerian who had a certain understanding getting on that Senegalese or that Nigerian who just got here or who's been here but doesn't have that understanding. So it takes, in my personal opinion, that type of beginning stages of awareness and reading to really know those things. Now you can say, oh, it's just you just know just from being human what's right and what's wrong. But then there are just things that you'll hear in conversation that lets me know that there's certain things that are left out in regards to the discourse around everything that we're talking about, because it should always and only should be with people in our circles what the Nation of Gods and Earths call a building and adding on, where you give me information, I hear you, and then I'm adding on to it, and then we're creating something, meaning solutions, right? Solution oriented rhetoric. And so I always talk about that, the psychological element, and how difficult that is to shape. And you can even go to the linguistical element of having to speak English that doesn't allow certain cognitive overstandings of spirit and of certain things in regards to just the language. So we're talking, and that's where the science comes in and the psychology comes in. And so it's a serious, it's a topic that it's going to take a lot. And it's not as simple as some people make it out to be, or that we think or believe it is.
It's as deep as when you close your eyes to pray to your God, some white image comes into your mind. It's hard to get this is the brainwashing that has been going on for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that image out of your mind. But when you and I agree with you, even though I know most Black people will not read, because if you want to hide something, we got a saying in America, if you want to hide something from Negro, hide it in a book, and you ain't got to worry about him finding it. But the problem is, you're right. We if they won't get online and get an education through videos, and then they need to read. They need knowledge. Knowledge is everything, and that's what the Bible is all about. It's about knowledge, and why people perish for lack of knowledge. And so that's what I implore these young people. That's in our community center. That's what we have been struggling to make sure that people understand. Get as much knowledge as you can. Learn everything you can. Learn everything you can, and whatever you decide to do, become an expert at it. That means you gotta burn some candle. You gotta stay up late at night. You got to commit yourself, and that's what the majority of our young people here in America lack right now. And it's very difficult because like you said, the attention span is like 6 seconds. So now you got to do mini. You got to do mini classes just so you can, and put a little bit at a time in them, because they can't, the phone ring, and I don't know what we're going to do. That's the reason why I'm looking to leave America. Because not that I know, I'm going to go to, I know that I'm not going to go to Africa and fix nothing, because ain't nothing need to be fixed. The place was there before I was born. But what I know is that it is very difficult it's for anybody who's conscious, who said, for somebody who's awoke, it's hell living in America, because you see what's going on. Now, if I was asleep, I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't even be on the line with you right now. I'd be out here cutting the food like everybody else. But my thing is, look, I need knowledge. I need to understand what's going on. I need to see the world around me. Most black people don't know that black people all over the world. And George, I know you may not like me using the term black people, because I know you say all humans, but black people all over the world are under siege. In West Papua, they're killing us. They're genociding us. In South America, in Central America, they've got countries in South America who have removed their black population. Ecuador, I think it is, one of them countries, removed their black population. They got rid of all of them. Where they put them, I don't know. But my point is that my concern right now is for my people. When I say African people, I'll help a white person. I'll give him the shirt off my back. I'll feed him. I'll do whatever he needs. But my concern, the people who need, I'm a physician, then I want to go to the people who are sick. That's what Jesus said. The people white people aren't sick. They're sick mentally, but they're not sick financially, and they got what they want. They have made their world. I want to show young black people in America and in Africa, if I get an opportunity, that you can make your own world. And it doesn't have to be based on what you see, democracy, Republican, Democrat. You don't have to have that in your country. I see in Ghana, they're fighting. You got two political parties, and they are, and to me, that's something that colonialism left them with. We got to fix that, because there needs to be some kind of way where your government isn't a contentious government all the time. In Nigeria too, I see it. Where they got one party over here who believes this, and that, to me, that is a Caucasian mindset. And they somehow they figure progress comes when you have two yin and yang pulling against each other. You get progress, maybe so, but to me, it's counterproductive.
And even to add to that, when we're talking about from a Pan-African perspective, Marcus Garvey had more people than Malcolm X and Martin Luther King put together in regards to his movement of back to Africa. And the only issue would have been, again, had J. Edgar Hoover, that was, if we are aware, that was J. Edgar Hoover's first mission, to have him exiled back to Jamaica. But it was a fundamental piece that we lost in regards to that Pan-Africanist mindset. Now there was some debates with W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, and there was these different different things. But I think that was a fundamental ideological perspective that, had he remained, there may have been some positive. We could take that into a different discussion.
What you just said though is that he was thwarted, and this is what I was saying, is that all the people he had all over the world, he had thousands of people who were members of his organization. Excuse me. And he was thwarted by the FBI and behind the scene maneuvers and deceptive behaviors.
Exactly.
Excuse me. And that's what we're up against here in America. They play to keep. And so that's the difficulty that I'm, a person who could see is under, because even myself, we do podcasts. Melanated Victual has a podcast. We started talking about how the Chinese were doing Africans, and we had a couple shows about the Chinese mistreating Africans, and we were upset and we wasn't having it. And the Chinese came and attacked our show. They attacked my website. They attacked my WePay account. So we don't have the power. I don't have the power. I could learn. I had to go learn some cyber security. But basically, I don't have the power to stop them.
Wow.
And it's the same thing with Africa.
That's not true, William. William, you do have the power. That's not true, William. It's intimidation tactics. It's intimidation tactics. So the more that you're trying to fight for your cause and for your people, the more that they're trying to intimidate you, to make you want to stop, to make you think.
Sure. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me, but it does. You know, the futility sometimes of it is depressing. You know, when you see that all your efforts and then they they push you back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And like I said, there's some kind of there's a hatred for Black Americans, African Americans. Go ahead, please.
may I
Go ahead.
I wanted to make one.
if you can all hear me.
Yes,
If
George.
you can hear me, let me just add a little bit more to what I said previously.
Okay.
You've all encapsulated the whole mess human beings are in. Both you, my brothers and the sisters speaking, are in the right, and I think on point. We have a lot of problems that can begin to find solutions, not just by our intellectual exercise in being educated, but also in being liberated from what's been enslaving of us, what's kept us down. That's why blacks and progressing, we're not being progressive in terms of business. We don't know how to patronize our own. That's why we're always doing the preferring of the one that doesn't look like us. So the bondage goes deep. Complicated as it may be, the maze of it all, the answer is simple. The answer is beginning to learn how to appreciate. First, we see who we are. Admit that you're inadequate. Because you notice intellect alone doesn't really free anyone. America has a lot of Black American, African American intellectuals, doctors, doctorate degree holders, masters, but it hasn't freed all of us. We still have ourselves standing in consternation of the white person as if he's master. Is it really? Can we take control of who we are? Somebody mentioned earlier in the past minutes on this particular live stream that what we need most of all is self-control, don't we? Yes, we do. Because here's the thing. When we hear a solution that is being provided, if it's coming from someone looking like you and I, the melanic person, we denigrate it. We chum it. We're like, that's not good enough. Let that same solution be offered, you or I, coming from someone Mongoloid or Colossal or Caucasian, we jump on it. Like, that is the brilliance. That's the epiphany. That's what we're looking for. Our damage has been done, but the healing process of it has to be a combination. Combination of saying to yourself, look, I've messed up. I don't like my Black brother. I see a Black person and immediately I jump like he's ready to hurt me. And in many cases, that's how it is. That is how it is. So I like being objective about how I view the world I live in. This is a chaotic world. My brother there in the white t-shirt who said, you're a Christian and you teach and preach these things, I couldn't agree with you more. But here's the thing. Take a position. Even if it means, brother, that many people reject you, so long as that position you've taken is one that is pointing true north. Let that position be one of light. Even if you be rejected, at the end of the day, let your conscience excuse or accuse you. But folks, we are all in darkness. We speak of Africa. African Americans want to return to Africa. I say, bravo. Please go back. Do business. Be embolden your brothers over there who may not be enlightened. But let's not come into Africa thinking we've got the answers. Sit down with the African and say, what are we dealing with? What are your problems? Is it bad roadways? They'll tell you plentiful. Barely, you have a car and that car couldn't even last 2 years because of bad road systems. Is your problem internet? How can I help that you may have good networks that are consistent? Are your problems electricity? What can I do to build a better grid? Be practical in your be practical in your approach when you visit Africa or wish to live in Africa.
I agree with you.
But also know that at the end of the day, until there is that dismissal of a fundamental discordance, until you can have a sit-down conversation and talk to them and they talk to you and say, brother, I'm with you. We may disagree on some things, but let the basic principle, the underlying foundation be firm. Let it be rooted in love. So we have situations in America that is not really helping out. Every single time there's a killing, there's an uproar. We want to protest, like the sister from the UK said. But what has the protesting done? Has it changed anyone's life? Has it
I don't
fed
agree with
any of
Coach.
us? We have a lot of hungry folks in America. I step out to go out on business, and every gas station I stop at or every convenience store I stop at, there will be either a white person or a black person, but it typically is a black brother or sister. They are not in any way disabled. The disability is in drug consumptions and addictions. The disability is in lacking of intellectualism. Don't want to go to school. The disability is the lies told that is
George, do you
unchanging.
think we're suffering from PTSD?
Pardon me?
Do you think we're suffering from PTSD?
Absolutely part of it. The answer, or what we're dealing with, is not
Join the group.
it's a complication, my sister. And I appreciate you not just because my sister's speaking with the British accent. I'm being funny, being facetious. It's because you make sense. You hear me? You are making fundamental sense. I'm praying folks are listening to this or go back and replay this particular live stream, like the last one I done with Virtue, about what's the purpose of life. Folks, we don't have a lot of truth. You talk about fighting battles. A lot of battles are fought internationally by lies. America lies when it goes to battle.
Now, to touch
and the enemies also lie. So battles are fought and won on the basis of lies, not truth. And guess who the master liar is? And so identified by the truth. Yeah, when I say truth, I mean a person. That's why when I come out and talk like this, I don't say I'm not a denominational person. I'm not a religious person. I have a relationship with the one who made me. And I'm not ashamed to speak of it. I'm educated, but I'm not lenient on education. I'm not coming on here now to espouse all kinds of books I've read. And sure enough, I've read them. And I'm now an author. That's not the point. The point is coming alive. For many of us are really dead while we live. There's an American movie that came out, The Living Dead. Boy, they came so close to telling the truth. But with the Hollywood spin, get yourself together. Get your nuts together. Begin to see your brother not as an enemy. But he may hate you because you are thinking differently. You're not plenary. But you let that brother know, wait a minute, I don't hate you. You're my brother. I care about you. When we get it together, then the white folk can see, oh, blacks have gotten the corner on us. Because the whole point of it has always been let's divide and conquer.
Yeah. And
exactly. That game being played. It has been played forever. And if you're thinking living in America and going to Africa is going to be your problem, a little solution to the problem, surprise, surprise.
Let me tell you,
Africa, you also have ethnocentric ideas and behavior. You have folks who would not like you because you don't speak their own native tongue. You have people who want to come gunning for you because you seem to be successful. Folks, come on. Do you see where we are and where we're headed? Do you think the solutions are easy and simple? No, they aren't.
No, they're not.
So here's the thing. Let's all get on our knees. Let's make money. I don't like any man who's lazy. Don't be lazy. I don't like being lazy. Get out and work. And ask Adonai to bless what you do. Do you know he can bless it? And like, what's his name? Bill Gates? You don't have to be a college grad to succeed in life. I tell you that because I know it's true. And then again, you could be a college grad, well-educated, and succeed.
I want to make
and I'm one of them. But the point of it is this. We look at each other and we want to stab each other. We look at each other and say, that's a black man coming. I better avoid him. Cross over to the other side of the street. You see a white person who could be the devil and you think he's good. What is wrong with us?
So a lot of that.
Saying to all of us, get it together, folks. Get it together. Begin to be a father in your home. Love the woman you're married to. Give her all the love you have in your bones. You hear me? And when you're doing that, you may think, but that's little. What impact is that going to have? You don't know. You could literally upturn the world by the life you live, by your example.
Let me
when you go into Africa, say, folks, I'm here to be a help. I'm here to help you. What are the things you need? How
Mm-hmm.
could I contribute? How could I be a part of it? Don't go into Africa with some superior attitude if
Mm-hmm.
you're a Black African American. You need to
Mm-hmm.
stop it
Exactly.
because you don't know all there is to know about Africa.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Mm-hmm.
too much traditions and intellect in Africa for
Mm-hmm.
any Black American coming in to handle.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
humble yourself, number one,
mm-hmm.
have respect for what you find there, good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
and then begin a communication and healing. Free yourself from mental slavery. Bob Marley
Mm-hmm.
sang of it, how
Mm-hmm.
true he was.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I don't want to be a reader, a connoisseur of books, but I wind up in the pit of hell. Whether you like it or not, hell does exist. It's
Mm-hmm.
a real place. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be in a way where I could do a little bit of tangential good for one person, if not many.
Mm-hmm.
Impact one life after you've impacted yours.
Mm-hmm.
Liberate yourself before you start looking for liberation in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to discourage you from going to Africa, but check
Oh, no,
yourself before you go to Africa.
the one thing I'm not going to be discouraged is that, and again, it's about building a bridge. Some believe in permanency to Africa, but I believe in also doing both, building a bridge, right? Having a place here, having a place over there. And I'll say this, and I'll let Mr. Williams go, and then after Mr. Williams go, I'm going to have to move forward because I'm going to have to leave. But there was I heard PTSD and Dr. Joy Leary or Joy LaGrue. We made she divorced. Yeah, and so when we talk about this stuff, right? We cannot miss, and again, that's why I talk about the psychology of it because, for example, and 2 points that I absolutely have to make. When we lost Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and I could go on and on and on. That was a major psychological blow and impact in the response that you're seeing now, right? That spirit and that energy exists here in America in the understanding of who was killed and what we went through in the 60s and how any person my age or older can talk about that are really older, right? 5 to 10 years older, how that really deflated the psyche and the spirit of Black America. We're talking about PTSD. We're talking about post slave syndrome, post everything, right? So so we're not only talking about when we're seeing people and their the work ethic is gone. Well, just like everything that you're seeing on television, I'm very surprised with CNN and some of these because you're seeing some of them trying to say every time they say something happened, we got to go back to the history. We got to go back to the history. And I don't agree with a lot of stuff that I'm seeing, but that's important to understand the mind. When you have 20 independent economic towns that might look like Dubai or Wakanda right now, and what I'm saying is Black Wall Street's plural. So we have to know that these places were burned down and how that affected us psychologically. We might have 20 quote unquote Dubai towns that Africans and Caribbeans would have been able to move right into had white people not burned those towns down. So we have to know that where the psychological warfare comes in and how it affects us mentally and spiritually. We probably would have very well a very small number when we're talking about people not working hard and this level of sort of dysfunction as well as economic things that happen. Again, we can point to spirit, we can point to all these other things, but for me, I have to point it to the white man. That's why I point it. That's what I see that happen. So for me understanding when you if you understand Tulsa, right? If you understand, Greenwood, if you understand Atlanta, Chicago, these places in the early 19th century when we're 40 years past slavery and we're now beginning to so-called pull our bootstraps up. We didn't even have no boots. And we're creating these financial stable economies throughout America. And then the Klan comes and white militias come and burn those down. That's psychological. We're just coming from psychological warfare with slavery. Now, things that we have established, and I say this is because we may not know where we would be had those 15, 20, 25, who knows how many well-established economies were made right after slavery that might still be existing if these places had not been burned down and we weren't able to protect them the way we needed to protect them. So we have to take this into account when you have the Jim Crow as well as and not to disrespect Step and Fetch It, but you had this whole menstrual 50, 60 years of menstrual psychology put into us through media and put through the world. So we can't and so I don't know if I'm disagreeing with anything. And I'm not saying anybody's minimalizing, but we have to understand that psychological warfare of the people and what you're seeing when these things have happened to us. So when they're setting things on fire, it's that understanding of however many leaders were hung and killed within that 10-year, well, longer than that, but specifically that civil rights era. So these are all the elements that we have to know that happened, that we had economic success and was developing that and might have these hardworking Africans, continental Africans that transitioned to the Americas, these hardworking Caribbean people might have been able to move into these well-established, well-oiled machines and economic bases in America that don't exist, that made us totally dependent on the white economic structure, as well as the academic and education system, which then so-called then perpetuates to the white supremacist mentality that we have, that we may bring to the continent. And so I never dismiss the reading of these books to give more clarity and understanding, so that if we do make this move over there, and for me, it's not just leaving and then completely leaving, because my family and friends and people are here. So that's why I'm saying have a bridge, the back and forth, and if need be, the permanency of there. And where I 100% agree with George is in that, it's not even about, it's not just agreeing. I think it's something that in our understandings we need to know, to not bring that white man in us over there. You have to purge that white man in, before you go over there to do anything. And I think many of us have that in us because of the power of colonialism, imperialism. And yeah, we could jump from a free throw line, and when we hear rhythm, we have a certain rhythm, and we have this epigenetic system of who we are with our melanin in Africa. But ideologically, I have the debate sometimes where I say, Dad, when I was able to look into the Nephi Yoruba and look into the cultural systems and spiritual systems, as well as the little bit of things that I've learned about traditional Africa before European colonization, it made me understand, man, I'm more white than I am African. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing, when we talk spirituality, that changes the dynamic of me being more of a European person and having this savage type of things that we do to each other, do against each other. Because when I hang around certain people of African descent and Caribbean descent, and Southern people African Americans from the South, who have more, in my opinion, African communal thinking and systems, we've lost so much of that. And to me, that's what you're seeing being played out in this white supremacist mindset that we all have, that we can't bring to other places. And how do we purge that? And I believe the start of that is the books. So I never want to dismiss the books with the spirituality, man, because in the documentaries, because we have to, it's what is that learning part and that learning curve before we get to the next step. And we might need to be, because some people have to debate over the leaders, right? That we don't need to lead, we have to find within ourselves to do certain things. But there's gonna have to be some type of premise to be able to even do this. And I think that comes from both, yes, that spiritual cleansingness, but the reading of the books and then cleansing that white man that's in us. Because I got it.
I think Africa right now is going through a transformation in that they are, like my sister here, they are awoke and they can see what's going on in their country and they can see what's going on around the world. African Americans, what they're going to have to do is let that grow and then attach yourself to that, not try to come there and start something that they're going to join. We have to join what it is, because I'm looking at Malala in South Africa. I'm looking at the leaders in Ghana and Rwanda, and how they are slowly but surely. Even the sister who was the ambassador for the UN, for the AU, they are slowly but surely coming to a mindset that, look, we have to get rid of aid. We got to stop taking aid from Europeans, and we've got to take our resources and make it work for our people. And so African Americans need to come in as a help. How can we help you?
Exactly.
Not, hey, we got the answer, because that's what I'm afraid of, and that's what I fear about a mass exodus of blacks going to Africa.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want them to mess up, the potential relationship we can all have.
I swear, I was just, not to cut you off, my apologies. That's what I was saying all this week about that conversation, is that, and what George is saying, right? That, and it's funny George is bringing that up and you're bringing up. I've been saying that along. Even if we do start building this bridge back to America, back to doing what we can, that white man is that mentality, that mindset. We don't want that to have. I was just talking about this yesterday.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what book. You talk about the many books, and I've read many books myself. And I advise people to read Joy DeGruy's book, PTSD, slavery.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
The book that took the white man out of me, the white mindset out of me, it was the Bible, brother. When I realized that the Bible was a black history book, and I looked in it and I saw what it said, and I looked at what it said, and I looked at what people from Europe were doing with it. And I didn't see no correlation. So it showed me that the Most High, when he came to earth, he came as a black man. That's what the book says, skin like burnt brass. So that let me know that the reason why they co-opted the book was so that they can use it as a means of power and control. But it is not their book. And if you really want to, if you want to talk about books, that's the book that will get the white mindset out of your mind, if you read it correctly. Now, if you read it with rose-colored glasses, you're gonna see roses. If you read it with a Baptist doctrine, you're gonna see Baptist. If you read it with a Methodist doctrine, you're gonna see Methodist. But if you read the book for what it says, and not try to figure out, well, how can I get around this or that, then it will cleanse you. And to me, it's a spiritual. It's wickedness in high places. That wicked spirit has now come in a. He's been presented to us with the white mindset, from a white mindset. I'll put it like that, from a white mindset. And if we could release that white mindset and see what things are for what they really are, according to what I read in the book, then it changes us. It makes me care for humanity. White people too, Italians and Greeks, but it also lets me know that as a physician, as a spiritual physician, if I can go so far as to call myself that, I have got to go to the people who are sick, who have been purposely poisoned. I'll put it like that, because they're all sick. They're all sick. But the people who have been purposely poisoned, because I'm gonna tell you, to me, the worst image that you could do to a black person is give him a white God. My Bible says you shouldn't even have a color for God. There should be no image on the earth, above the earth, or upon the earth that represents God.
Exactly.
When you bring an image that represents what you have done in the mind of a slave, and that's when you go back to PTSD, she's talking about back from slavery. What you have done in the mind of a slave, it says, wow, if God is white and these people are white, these people represent God. And so therefore, I'm going to be like them. I'm going to adopt their mindset. And
thank you, brother.
Well, it's not correct.
Well said. You put it on point. We made the picture of God in human terms. Oh, he's a white Jesus. Oh, he's a black Jesus. What a lie. Remember where lies come from, folks. They can come from books. They come from people you know. They come from religion. But ask yourself, see, when you're seeking for something and you're desperately seeking it from the right source, he makes it known to you. And the
George,
brother, you captured the things that I really believe and I'm willing to die for. See, Adonai Elohim, the Lord God, he is not God of the Africans or God of the Europeans, God of the man with the blue eyes, or God of... Stop that. That's nonsense.
but
Scripture even
George,
says it.
but
Scripture
George,
said,
but George,
yeah, go
George,
ahead, my
wait a
brother.
minute now. But George, when God came in the flesh, if you believe that, I happen to believe it, that God came in the flesh. It's okay.
I heard you
But
say
but
that
but
Yeshua in the body was black. I heard you say that.
and that's all I'm
Guess what,
saying.
my
So
brother?
so
Get
therefore to say he was no color
no.
is a disservice.
No. That's not what I speak of. I speak
Okay.
of him as he is now. And scripture tells you that.
Okay, I agree
He's
with
no
you.
longer what you knew him to be.
I
He
agree
is
with
the
you.
son of Elohim.
I agree.
I hear you, brother. I feel you. And I know where you are. And I know you're not ignorant. The point is, when he was born Jewish. It is the very reason that the woman at the well in Samaria said, you Jews say when we worship, it has to be in Jerusalem. He said to her, I tell you, that is not what I'm saying. If you worship Elohim now, you worship him in spirit and in truth. But
True.
enough of that. Because indeed, we talked
Yeah.
about that on Virtue's former program, live stream, from
Okay.
I
I
think
wish
a
I
week
could
ago
have got
Saturday. So folks, I encourage you, go back and check that out. It says, what's the purpose of life? Your brother George was on there. But listen to me. I don't have all the answers. None of you there has the answers, all of it. But I tell you who does. The living Elohim does. Not everybody knows him, but we can all know him. And not every religion leads to him. No, but all religion and everybody practicing whatever, up to animism, are welcome. His door's open, but it's not open to every way finds me. No. How could you in darkness be looking for a living Elohim? He has to reach out in light into the depths of darkness and pluck you and I out. But black folks, let's begin to change our mindset. Let's stop looking and feeling like we're subservient, like we're inferior to a white person. What's wrong with us? I teach white people. They ask me questions all day long. I also teach black people. So what is the
All
point
right.
of it? The answer does not lie in skin color. It lies in your confidence and intelligence and education. But then, remember, those aren't primary. Primary is a relationship, like my brother in the white shirt said, relationship with the God who made you. He was here before you came along. He brought you in. He gave you a span of time to rendezvous. And then he takes you out. And eventually he'll step right back on stage and say, here I am. And he'll set things right and set things in order. Does it mean I should let a Chinese man or woman come into Africa and try to dominate and rape me, clean me out of my resources and take it out to China? The Europeans did that. Folks, let me give you a little bit of a good news at this point. For all the stealing the Europeans did, some of them didn't even live long enough to enjoy it. They perished. And a lot more folks will perish coming.
Oh, be not
So
deceived.
don't have your confidence in just the systems as we have it now. But work. I believe in work. And let black folks begin to think about owning your own businesses. I'm telling you what I do. Because I do it, I'm not afraid to tell somebody else to do it. You can't take what's mine.
I haven't
But
worked
you
for
know that
anybody
you
in the
can make
last
it.
50 years.
You can make it. Don't always seek to be working for some corporation. I did that and I got tired of it a little over 10 years ago. Enough already. Create your own business, no matter how little, and build it slowly and get blessed. And don't
All
just
right.
hold your money. Be a giver. Help other people that are poor. Help them. And then manage your resources.
Yes,
and
sir.
trust Elohim. Clean your mind up. And when you come into Africa, come in humbly. Come in looking to reconcile. Come in asking, I'm your brother, you're my brother. Can we get along?
How can I
Can we
help?
work together? That is where it's at. Virtue, I am so appreciative of you. I didn't want to just jump on any platform. I hate doing that. But it was so cogent, what you were all talking about. And there is nuggets in everything every one of you was saying. As I hope you feel, there's a nugget in what I'm saying. But let's harness our good points, good skills. Let's build together. But don't build thinking the white man is your enemy. Because even in doing so, you're enslaving yourself. Free yourself by looking at the white person as just not your problem. Satan is your problem. Him you should hate. And everyone he sends along to you to do you harm, foresee it, see them for who they are, call them out. But build your brother up. And your brother is spiritual, not physical. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Virtue.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So we're going round to round up. I appreciate this conversation. If you noticed, I took a backstage and let everyone, just have this conversation and all. One thing I like to do is, like I said, the goal of this live stream is to give people the platform to express their views, perspectives and opinions. That's why I haven't been talking so much today. And given the fact that health-wise, I'm not my 100%. So I decided to take the backstage. But I've enjoyed every conversation. I've learned, a lot already, and I think everyone in the chat room has done the same. So if you came in and you've not subscribed, click on the subscribe button and the bell beside it to get notified each time I upload new videos and I come up live. If you've not given this stream a thumbs up, definitely do that as well. Give it a thumbs up because I'm pretty sure you've learned, and gotten some insights and all into this from this conversation. Sorry. So we're going to take the rounds to round up. Just give your last words, everyone, in 2 minutes before we go. So I'll start with Nware, because Nware has been long up for a long time. He has literally been the moderator while I took the backstage. So I definitely appreciate you so much, Prof. Nware, and it's been a good time having this conversation with you. So just 2 minutes, give your final words before I let you go. You have the floor.
Okay, so I want to thank the panel. I want to thank you there at Grace. I want to thank everyone that stepped in, the Sister for Britain, Mr. William, Mr. George, for your insight and information. And for everybody out there that's listening to this conversation, the knee is on our necks, and it's time to remove this knee off of our neck. We can build this bridge. And again, it doesn't have to be all the way left, all the way right. We have two places. As an African American, we always see, especially I lived in Brooklyn for quite some time and around a lot of diverse people of so many ethnic groups. They're always going back home to a country and coming back, And if we understand like basic economics, a lot of like what George was saying, having our own economics and stuff like that, like you'll see Syrians and different ethnic groups get loans from those countries, come back, have their store, money going back and forth. You see it in with the Israel. You see it all the time. So it's okay to build that bridge and try to educate each other in the diaspora, but specifically we're talking about Africa right now, and to use that DNA genetic science to now build that bridge. If you want to go from an ethnic perspective, to do that, to get more knowledge about you personally, yourself, or different areas of the continent you might be secure with. But we have to build that bridge either way. And then my film talks about, again, spirituality, white supremacy, being part of that that narrative, that discourse, and that discussion of doing that. But I'm talking specifically about the names, all right? But ridding all of it, we need to rid all of it. And to me, that's the direction we need to move in, removing racism, white supremacy from our mind, body, and spirit. All right, so I'm going to get ready to the Forward Brothers. I'm supposed to be in Brooklyn at the African Drumming Circle, Prospect Park. That's going on right now. So I got people waiting on me. So I appreciate you, Grace. Thank you for having me, and appreciate everyone that gave their insight.
You're welcome. It was good having this conversation. Take care. Bye.
All right. I'm going to click off.
All I would say is, Sister.
Yeah. Let me take you out.
All I would say is, Sister Virtue, I appreciate you. I watch you all the time. I watch Odemaya. I watch Dr. Mumbai. I'm very interested in what's going on in the continent. I read local papers as much as I can so I can understand what's happening and what's going on. And I just appreciate you having this forum. And I look forward to going back to Africa. You know, I know I'm not going to go back there and solve the world's problems, but I'm going to go back there and help. I'm going to help them do whatever they want to do. I'll help. And that's, you know, and like my brother said, streets, roads in Ghana. You know, I would try to do a GoFundMe so that the world can help pay for roads in Ghana. You know, something that would be productive for the people and be a benefit to the society that they don't have. I don't want to go there and compete, you know, in IT. I'm an IT professional. I don't want to go there and compete with a job. I don't want to take nobody's job in Ghana. I want to bring something that's going to help employ somebody. I want to bring my business and employ people and teach them something new. So that's what we're about, and that's I appreciate the whole forum, and I appreciate you, George. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. It's been good having you. And we look for someone is waving at me from the back. Hi. Oh, nice, Uma.
30 years. 30 years.
Oh, wow.
30 years, yeah.
Congratulations. I love to see happy couples. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you.
How is the family?
Family is great.
All right. Right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye. Let me take them.
That's right.
Oops. Okay. Um, Nad. Nads.
I would just like to say thank you for having me, and I wish you a speedy recovery. And George, it's been a pleasure listening to you, and to everyone that's been, you know, tuning in. I wish you all the best, but I'll also like to leave you guys with this message, especially to all the women that have been listening to this. We are very, very, very powerful people. Us as females, we are experiencing this thing that we're having right now. This thing that we call life is an experience. But as women, we empower our man, we empower our children, and we've empowered the majority of our past leaders and present leaders. Without us, there would have been nothing. So I encourage each and every one of you women out there to work on your craft, perfect your craft, so that you're able to build and help one another to build. And that's the only way that you guys can escape this monstrosity that's going on. I love you all. And Grace, did you find out who wrote that poem, the Zulu poem? Because I'm still trying to find out who wrote it.
Sorry, I didn't get that, Nads.
The Zulu poem. You posted a Zulu poem, I think, a couple of days ago. Did you find out who the poet was?
No, I haven't.
Right, guys, please listen to that poem because there's a very, very strong message there. Over to you, George.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Nads. Thank you so much. It's been nice having you. Thank you for coming. I definitely look forward to having conversations with you again sometime on the show.
I will do. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. George?
Oh, darling, Virtue, thank you so much for your forum. Nat, never seen you nor know what you look like, but to me, you're like my soul sister. Well, because the things you say are really cogent and they are stocked in truth. I like that. Everyone who's listening to the gentlemen that were on here before me, and I'm so thankful for Virtue for letting me have this brief moment to comment on this topic. Folks, at the end of the day, each and every one of us has to be responsible for what we do. So I encourage every one of you to take away something that is of benefit to your individual lives, wherever you may be around the world. America has no better answers for solving man's problems than Nigeria, than Ghana, than Tanzania, or whoever. The solution isn't in us. The solution is outside of us. Let's tap into that and then start building. Virtue, you've worked through not feeling well. Oh, I so wish and I pray you get well, because you are one of my best YouTubers. You give it your all. You espouse
Thank you.
truth. That's what you're about. And it makes me, I delight in what you do. And I'm not just being facetious, it's a fact. And I
Thank you.
encourage every one of you who's listening or still watching, listen out. Look out for Awake Now. It's a book authored by me. You will learn and hear things you've never been told ever before. But it's based on truth. It is what it is. Check it out. Because soon enough it'll be on Amazon Kindle and bookstores around the world, but particularly Barnes and Noble here in America. Thank you all for listening, for watching. Build, build, build. Do not enslave yourselves all over again by having enemies of any particular racial group. It is enslavement. Look at the white person as your potential brother, for he could very well be. Not all of them, but the ones that you somehow cross paths with. Don't think just because somebody's black that they are your brother. Look beyond the skin color. Build, build, build Africa. African Americans, welcome to Africa. But don't go in there thinking you've got the answers. You don't. Africans have their own answers. Find out how you could bear up and come alongside them to build Africa. Virtue, thank you so much.
All right, George. Thank you. Thank you. All right, fam. I appreciate every one of you. Someone is asking for who has the link to the Zulu poem. So I'm going to drop the link in the stream now so you can go watch. So that's the link I've just dropped in the house, in the chat room, the link to the Zulu poem. I'm dropping it again. So that's the link. So for those of you who want to watch it, you go watch it. And the PLO Lumumba's Foundation was on the lookout for him. So if you know him, definitely contact the PLO Lumumba Foundation and inform them about him, his information possibly. Thank you so much everybody for watching. I wanted to, my intention was to stay on briefly and just have this conversation and go, but then it took longer and I couldn't just stop because the conversation has been so interesting. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you have also learned one or two things. And like I've been saying, if you've not subscribed, definitely, click the subscribe button and click the bell beside it. I'll see you in my next video, hopefully tomorrow, or if I'm not able to make videos, I'll see you when next I can see you. But definitely, keep me in your prayers. I need your prayers now. I'll definitely be going to the hospital tomorrow to seek further medical attention because I definitely know I need that. So keep me in your prayers and share my videos. At least I would appreciate that while I'm away and I'm not bringing videos every day. I would appreciate if you can share some of my videos that I've made that are your favorite and share them on your social media, share them with your friends and acquaintances, and let me just have people coming to my platform, watching videos and definitely you know just engaging with my content while I'm away and all. Yeah, I can't say what really is wrong with me, but I know I'm not feeling okay. So I'm going to the hospital tomorrow for further tests and medical examinations so that they can determine what it is really. And of course, I'm going to keep you all informed when um, my tests are conducted and my results come back. uh, you're definitely family, so I'll keep you informed with regards to my health. As you can see, my neck is already coming up. I don't understand what is happening. So that's it. So please do me this one favor while I'm away and not bringing you videos every day. Just share my videos. Let me have people coming to my channel. I don't want it to be just, um, empty without any engagements and all. let there still be some sort of activity going on my channel, even while I try to recuperate. And trust me, when I get back stronger and more healthy, there are a lot of things that I will have to talk about. I might even do a stream tomorrow if I'm strong enough to do some of the things happening on the continent. While this conversation was going on, I just saw some posts on social media here in Nigeria that just broke my heart, and I feel like it's definitely just so wrong that we are dealing with. I just feel like so much is happening all over the place, in America, here in Nigeria, and it's taking, it's just similar, and it's so heartbreaking. So this particular post by a Nigerian celebrity, I don't know, this is not focusing. How do I get this to focus? Okay. These two young girls were the one here, this one here is a 100 level student who went to study in a church somewhere in Nigeria, and then she got raped in that church and murdered. So it's so heartbreaking. Then this one here, this one, no, this little girl here, I think she's about 11 years old. Um, According to the story, she was shot by a police officer here in Nigeria, and then they took her to the hospital, but they refused to attend to them because there was no police report, and eventually I think she died. So it's just so heartbreaking that we're dealing with police brutality all over the place. And these are a little girl and then a young girl who went to a church to read, and she got raped, and also it's really heartbreaking. But like I said, I need to recover and get myself before I can have any further conversations about this, disturbing issue. So thank you all so much for watching this live stream. I'll see you in my next broadcast or my next video. Bye.